All right, good evening. I'm 5 News meteorologist Stephen Elmore. Actually, good morning now. Again, we talked about the potential for these storms going well into Sunday morning, and we're just starting the beginning of it. We had two cells. We had one cell across portions of southeastern Oklahoma, now crossing over the state line into the river valley, and we also have more thunderstorms expected further out towards the west right now, just west of Tulsa. That's going to be impacting northwest Arkansas and the river valley later on this morning. Talking about what the update is from now. Now we have a severe thunderstorm warning that includes more of the river valley into Sebastian, Crawford, and Sequoyah counties. The National Weather Service is starting to get ahead of themselves a little bit. We're still a little bit further away from these storms actually impacting those high populated areas of Fort Smith, Van Buren, and into Sequoyah County, into Crawford County as well. So let's get a closer look here of what the severe thunderstorm warning includes. Again, we're just now starting to see the strongest portion of those wind gusts, that hail, really that heavy rainfall as well, just now going into Poteau. Poteau is starting to see a lot of lightning moving through, some strong wind gusts as well. We'll track out those wind gusts here in just a second. Folks in Fort Smith, portions of Sequoyah County, Van Buren, you still got a while to go. I'll track it out right now for you of when we're expecting to see this moving through. Fort Smith, 1247. So we're at 1211 right now. You still got a while to go, but this severe thunderstorm warning is just because these strong wind gusts are producing some damaging wind gusts as well. All right, let's break this down. Pensacola, 1233, so about 20-ish minutes. Fort Smith at 1247. Van Buren closer to 1 a.m. Alma closer to 1 a.m. as well. Breaking down the severe thunderstorm warning, what the details entail. Every time we get one of these severe thunderstorm warnings, they include a little information of what is included. Pulling that up right now. This severe thunderstorm warning goes until 12:45 a.m. and this is going to be for 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts and nickel-size hail. So we're dropping the risk for that damaging hail. Anytime we see that hail about over a quarter size or larger, that's when we're talking about some potential damaging hail. The main concern is those wind gusts. It only needs 58 miles per hour to cause a severe thunderstorm warning. Now we're crossing well over into 70 miles an hour. This system further out towards the west is packing a punch closer to 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Wind gusts, again, throughout the rest of the day today, or the whole day today, we have been talking about how wind gusts are going to be our main concern here. I'll track it out one more time, give you those times once again for folks just hopping on. Again, we still got a while to go before this cluster of thunderstorms reaches some of those high populated areas. Again, Pensacola, about 12:30. You got about 20 minutes before you're going to start to see just this rush of wind coming in. 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, definitely damaging winds. You're going to hear it outside. Fort Smith, closer to 12:50. Still got some time to go. Van Buren, 12:56. Alma, 1 o'clock. So got some time still. National Weather Service is just getting ahead of themselves, tracking out this warning further out in advance. And now we're starting to see these warnings start to pile up across portions of Oklahoma. So you see where this warning was just issued right now, nothing in this polygon actually has anything in it right now. They're issuing these way out in advance because these damaging wind gusts are so strong that they want to get that information out as quick as possible, get that information out to those folks that live in these areas so that they can prepare for this wall of heavy rainfall, strong wind gusts coming through at one time. We'll get you a wider view of the whole DMA real quick. We'll take out the track. And I'm actually going to turn off the warnings just really quickly, just to show you where the rainfall is. Okay, so we got two clusters right now. One across portions of southeastern Oklahoma, just now crossing over the state line. And then we have a whole nother system that we're still over an hour from getting into across portions of central Oklahoma, just now moving into the Tulsa metro. So northwest Arkansas, you still got a while to go. It's still very humid outside, still very muggy outside, and we're going to see those storms eventually, just probably not until 1, 2, 3 a.m. heading into early this morning. This is going to be our main focus right now that we have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings across portions of the river valley. I'm going to go turn those warnings back on. So I'll pull up the one that we had originally, the one that's right behind our new one. That was for upgraded to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Let's pull up that hail tracker real quick, see where exactly those hail cores are. So we've been kind of bouncing back and forth, pulsing up and down between these hail cores. There's where we're spotting right there across portions of LaFleur County, just northeast of Tallahena, just outside of Heavener, still southeast of Poto. But you see how much small hail is being produced by this system right now. Anything in the gray here, small hail, definitely not damaging. Once we start to see these dark blue spots start to pop up, that's when we consider those hailstones to potentially be damaging. So we still got a while to go before it even crosses over into Poto. But folks who live in Poto, definitely be on the lookout. We're going to see this line of hail starting to move through Poto in the next 30 minutes or so. Folks for Fort Smith, you still got a while to go as well. I'll put the cone just on this one cell. Again, this cell is going to pulse up and down throughout, the next several hours. So this, I doubt this specific hailstone is going to populate all the way up to Fort Smith. But for people who live in that area, you can kind of get a rough estimate. One a little bit after 1 into 1:30, that's when we could potentially be seeing not only the strong wind gusts, but also some hailstorms right behind that initial line of thunderstorms. We'll pull up the wide DMA view again, get rid of our tracker. We also have our Facebook Live stream up, folks who are joining us there. We'll try to answer a few questions, not going to get to everyone. And let's see here. Pull up our sweeping radar. A lot of lightning being produced by this system, both systems, across southeastern Oklahoma and portions of central Oklahoma as well. Just reading the verbiage out of the National Weather Service, we have our chat pulled up here. I'm going to try to pull up some information real quick. What's mainly being talked about throughout the rest of the night tonight is the fact that we're going to be in for potentially a very long night tonight. These systems are going to be tracking all the way out until around 6 a.m., heading into Sunday morning, 7 a.m. potentially. And as it stands right now, they're not losing their strength. They're only actually picking up in intensity. We mentioned in the last live stream how National Weather Service across Cushing, Oklahoma, I believe it was, recorded a wind gust of 98 miles per hour, almost 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts across portions of central Oklahoma. Right now, this cluster is only producing anywhere from 60 to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, so a little bit lower, but also still in that damaging range. We're going to scroll through our Facebook Live real quick, see if we see a common question. Again, strong wind gusts are going to be our main concern heading into the rest of the night tonight. I'll go ahead and pull up our storm threats. The good news is, as it stands right now, we've only had maybe 1 or 2 tornado warnings in that cell that's across that line of thunderstorm that's across central Oklahoma. It's really just producing straight line wind gusts, and the same with our other cell across portions of southeastern Oklahoma crossing over the state line. No tornado warnings in that cell. Our tornado threat for tonight is very low. Now, that doesn't rule out the potential that we may see a brief spin up or two the rest of the night tonight. It's definitely still available with this type of forecast. It's just not going to be our main concern. Our main concern heading into tonight is definitely going to be those straight line wind gusts. Anytime we're crossing over into 60, 70 mile an hour wind gusts, that's when we'll potentially be talking about several people losing power potentially heading into tonight. Good news is into tomorrow, after this front moves through, daytime highs only going to be in the low to mid 80s, still going to be hot outside. It's definitely going to be humid outside as well. So folks worrying about their AC heading into tomorrow, stuff in the fridge. Potentially, we could be seeing a lot of power outages tonight, especially if these cells uphold the wind gusts that they're producing right now. Also, what we have to concern about is those hailstones. Right now, a lot of them are only producing pea to nickel size hail. That's what our severe thunderstorm warning across portions of Crawford, Sebastian, and Sequoia County was for, only nickel size hail. That's not considered damaging. But if we start to see those hailstorms start to pulse back up again, crossing over that quarter size hail, that's when we could potentially be talking about some damaging hail returning back into the forecast or later on this morning. Again, we're sitting at 12:20 a.m. right now, and we're mainly considering the highest threat, the timeline being anywhere from 1 to 3 a.m. We still got to get that line of thunderstorms out of central Oklahoma and pushing through northwest Arkansas. Right now, just that first cell across southeastern Oklahoma is what's causing all those severe thunderstorm warnings, just those two right now. We'll go back to radar, show you the DMA view, and then we'll show you the river valley view, since where that's most of our activities happening. Got a lot of stuff going on right now. We'll turn off lightning. You know it's going to be producing lightning. And we'll turn on sweeping. Go down to the river valley. So they're starting to trim some of these severe thunderstorm warnings down a bit, but multiple laying on top of each other right now is those severe thunderstorm warning polygons. So you got technically two in Poto right now. Poto really starting to see the brunt of this heavy downpour of rain. Unfortunately, usually in these situations, we'd show you those cameras, but frankly, all you're going to see is those flashes of lightning in the distance, just a downpour of heavy rainfall right now going on in Poto. But what's the issue with the severe thunderstorm warning is the leading edge right here. That's going to be producing some strong straight line winds. I'll go ahead and pull up the warning real quick to see if they've upgraded that to a higher wind gust. Still at 70 mile an hour wind gust and nickel size hail. So nickel size hail, not considered damaging. Those straight line winds though, definitely going to be considered damaging. I'll get rid of this track and then we'll pull up the track for folks living in the rest of this warning. Straight line winds can cause some big issues. Obviously, folks who have been through these severe thunderstorm warnings before absolutely know that just because we're not talking about the tornado threat being as high heading into this event, straight line winds can be just as damaging. All right, so this is moving 45 miles per hour heading towards the northeast. So we're going to track that out real quick. All right. So still got some time here before these straight line winds reach into Bacola. About 10 minutes or so until 12:29 is what we're estimating. Those straight line winds starting to move through. Just got that recent update. We'll go ahead and redraw that line. Up the speed on this, 45 miles per hour towards the northeast. All right, here's those times for you. Bacola, 12:31, Fort Smith, 12:43, Alma, close to 1 a.m. So we're sitting at 12:20 a.m. currently right now. Got about 20 minutes for folks living in the Fort Smith area. Alma, you're going to be closer towards 40 minutes from now. Pensacola, you're up next for these straight line winds. Poto just got those 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts out of the cell right now. These are going to continue its intensity through the rest of the river valley heading into tonight. Folks who are out of this potential for some severe weather, I doubt we'll see any severe weather produced out of these cells across portions of Scott County. Folks in Waldron, Paris, Clarksville, looks like the heaviest track right now is going to be further out towards the west. But if this holds on to its intensity, folks in Fort Smith, you're going to be looking at about 12:40, 12:45 as your potential timing out for when we're going to see those straight line winds. We'll pull up our DMA view real quick. And get rid of our track and pull up those hailstones again. I want to see if those have pulsed back up or not. And right now, hail is not going to be my main concern with this cell across southeastern Oklahoma. You're seeing that one cell populated across just north of Poto, kind of along the leading edge of where the radar is picking up the front edge of that system right now. But it's just that light gray. This is pea-size hail, maybe not even reaching the surface. This is what we'll be looking for potentially damaging hail. Folks that live just to the northeast of Tallahena, you saw some of those potentially damaging hailstones. I believe this was listed as quarter-size hail earlier on in the night. Since then, the hailstones have been decreased significantly, not even really picking anything up as we get closer towards that leading edge of those storms. Sweeping radar. Again, our latest time for that reaching into Pensacola was about 12:30, so you got about 5 minutes here for folks living in Pensacola before those straight line winds reach you, and then folks in Fort Smith, you got about 15 to 20 minutes before those straight line winds reach you as well. Let's go ahead and I want to read you some of the information coming out of again, this is just reading some of the information coming out of the National Weather Service chat. When they talk about this phrase of bow echoing, I'm going to kind of bounce over to the other system that we got going on across Tulsa right now. See this bow echo? This is why this is producing strong wind gusts right now. We're talking about 80 plus miles per hour. Not really seeing that bow effect right now across portions of the river valley. Still strong wind gusts, 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts are going to be damaging. But for the most part, we're just going to see those really strong wind gusts. Again, earlier clocked at over 90 miles an hour in central Oklahoma. We'll see if it upholds its intensity as it gets closer towards northwest Arkansas. I'm going to draw that line out once again, make sure we're still on track here. If those clusters across portions of Scott County start to come together a little bit, not so scattered, we may be seeing potentially a severe thunderstorm warning across portions of Scott and Logan counties. All right, Fort Smith updated time just a little bit at 12:38. So you're sitting at about 10 minutes right now before those straight line winds reach you. Van Buren at 12:45. Paris at about 1:10. Ozark 1:20. Clarksville at 1:30. So Clarksville still got about an hour, but so far, if it holds its track, these storms don't cross over the severe limit, most likely not going to see as damaging winds as our friends further out towards the west. I'd say folks in Fort Smith, Van Buren, you're still awake with us this evening. Prepare for those straight line damaging winds. Again, going over those safety procedures. If you start to see that severe thunderstorm warning, straight line winds still, even though it's not that rotation, still a good idea to try to get away from those windows. When we're talking about 70 mile an hour wind gusts, we could be talking about power lines being snapped. We could talk about branches being broken off trees. We could talk about if those trees are starting to die a little bit, they're weak trees, and then we could talk about those falling over. So this is the type of wind gusts that are going to have the potential to cause this type of damage. 12:38 is our latest time for folks in Fort Smith. folks in Pensacola seeing those straight line winds right now going to be lasting, going to be very intense over the next 10 minutes or so before the leading edge of those thunderstorms pass on through, and then you're just going to be seeing quite the lightning show and some heavy rainfall. Still going to be very windy outside, but only across the leading edge is where we're going to see those strongest wind gusts picking up. I'm going to pull up the information on this warning again, just to make sure we're not crossing over into that 80-mile-an-hour range, and they're still hanging on to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts and nickel-sized hail. And we'll go ahead and take off this track since we've updated a little bit. This is starting to spread out just a little bit. Still this leading edge on the west side of Fort Smith. Strong winds about to be coming in. If you're on the southeastern side of Fort Smith, you probably got a little bit more time than folks on the west side, just because we're coming at an angle here. But we're starting to see some of these scattered storms starting to go out in front of this leading edge. Probably already seen a few of those lightning strikes outside, already pushed north of Fort Smith. Some strong winds mixed in there as well. But this is the concerning part of this, is when it comes together in this straight line right here. That's what's going to lead to those damaging wind gusts coming up in about 10 to 15 minutes or so. Just reading through our Facebook chat. You have any questions? We'll try to get to a few of them. A lot of folks wanting to know when and where these storms are going to hit. A lot of folks talking about power outages. That's probably what we're going to see a lot of heading into the rest of the night tonight. I'm actually going to pull that up, see if we can find out how many power outages we have right now. These straight line winds, the main enemy tonight is going to be those power lines. Those power lines, doesn't take much for those to snap. And when we're talking about 70-plus-mile-an-hour wind gusts, we could potentially be talking about multiple power outages heading into tonight. Just trying to get you a number if we have any currently right now. Obviously we do. We're talking about folks in our Facebook live chat talking about they're already without a power. All right. So far, at least in Arkansas, I'll go ahead and pull up Oklahoma as well. Nothing being picked up as in terms of power outages in Sebastian County. I imagine when we check back at this number in about 30 minutes or so after this leading edge pushes through, we're probably going to see some of those numbers populate. Pull up Oklahoma real quick. Because I imagine across portions of Leflore County, Sequoia County, we're starting to see some of those numbers pile up. And then right after we check out Oklahoma to get you that number, we will track out this line of thunderstorms once again to give you the latest timing on when that's going to arrive into Fort Smith area, Van Buren, when it's going to be arriving into Alma. Folks in Leflore County, just a couple hundred power outages right now, so that's a good sign. Not a lot of folks in Five Country without power this evening so far. Hopefully that stays the same throughout the rest of the night tonight. We'll see as we continue on into... All right. Good sign is that this is starting to fall apart just a little bit. You're seeing these kind of try to outrun themselves just a bit. These scattered showers, not producing a lot of those strong winds just when they're isolated like this. Really, it's just this line of thunderstorms. If this is starting to outrun it just a bit, that's going to be a good sign. You see right behind the severe thunderstorm warning, all of these have started to fall off just a bit. So hopefully we're starting to see maybe this pulse down just a bit. If not, we'll continue to see the severe thunderstorm warning push into Franklin, Crawford, and Johnson County potentially as well. Folks that live on the west side of Fort Smith, you're seeing those strong wind gusts right now, 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts still. Fort Smith, you got about 5 minutes or so before these straight line winds are going to be right over you. Van Buren, you got about 10, 15 minutes or so. Alma, you got about 30 minutes. Charleston, closer towards 30 minutes as well. Mulberry, we got about a little over 30 minutes. So still got some time. Folks in Fort Smith, out of time. Those straight line winds are coming in right now. And information on the warning, most likely still holding on to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, nickel-size hail. I'll go ahead and pull up chat real quick, make sure they're not tracking anything with this cell. And nothing right now. Let's actually see. Nothing right now coming out of National Weather Service chat. All right. Let's kind of go across portions. We got a lot on the screen right now. Let's go over portions. The River Valley, where these storms are going to be coming at you next. Kind of zoom out here a little bit. All right, so now these severe thunderstorm warnings, just one right now involving portions of the River Valley into LaFleur, Sequoia, Crawford, Sebastian County, Fort Smith. That line of thunderstorms is moving in right now. Severe thunderstorm warning way ahead of where the line is right now, pushing over into Adair and Delaware counties. Focusing on portions of the River Valley right now, these cells across portions of Scott County moving into Logan County are starting to pick up their intensity. We're starting to see a lot of those lightning bolt signatures populate as well. Still no severe thunderstorm warning involved in portions of Scott and Logan County. We'll be tracking to see if potentially we might see a severe thunderstorm warning populate over the next 30 minutes to an hour or so. Folks in Fort Smith, again, this line of thunderstorms moving in right now. Van Buren coming in next. That latest track that we just put with the timing of this, looking at about 10 minutes or so for folks in Van Buren. Once we get into Crawford County, then we're going to be talking about those straight line winds reaching potentially still holding on to those 70-mile-an-hour range. Again, we only need to get to 58 miles per hour to see these warnings start to populate throughout this whole system. That's come out of southeastern Oklahoma. It's always held onto those severe thunderstorm warnings, so we'll continue to track those as they push through. Getting a closer look here. I'm actually going to zoom in just a little bit more. So Greenwood, you just saw those straight line winds push through. Now you're seeing still those straight line winds and also the heavy downpour. Mansfield, you saw that heavy rainfall currently right now. Poto, good news is you're not seeing a lot of that rainfall anymore. Most of that system has already pushed through. We'll see if this system across central Oklahoma reaches into LaFleur County, most likely only staying into northwest Arkansas and only portions of the River Valley. Fort Smith, right now, you're seeing those straight line winds, probably most likely howling outside right now. 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts is going to be very loud outside. Damaging wind gusts, power outages, most likely. Coming within the next couple of hours or so. We'll start to see those pick up on throughout the rest of the night. Outrunning this system, these straight line winds moving further into the River Valley. We're going to be talking about Logan County, Boonville. You're seeing some of that rainfall just on to the west side, and right into Greenwood right here is when we're talking about the most intense of that storm right now. Just starting to get into the west side of Fort Smith, east side Fort Smith. You probably just on the doorstep right there of starting to see these straight line winds coming through. I'll pull up the hail tracker right now. They haven't updated that outside of just the nickel size hail. And we're still only seeing those gray spots right there. Once we start to see some of that blue start to populate on the screen, that's when we're talking about potentially damaging hail. Good news is, looks like our wind threat is only going to be our main concern with this system that's coming out of southeastern Oklahoma. The hail threat right now very low. Haven't had a tornado warning at all with this system coming out of Oklahoma, crossing over the state line now. So that's a good sign. No rotation, just these straight line winds. Pull up velocity here for you. Show you these bright spots. Whenever we're starting to see these bright spots of blue, kind of lime greenish, that's where the strongest winds are going to be. Lots of lightning. This is right next to the radar site, obviously, so it's very close to there. Might not be getting a great reading, but for the most part, just outside of Greenwood, south side of Fort Smith, you're seeing the strongest wind gusts trying to move in right now. I'll zoom in here really close. Show you exactly. Bacola, you're in the clear from those straight line winds. The heaviest portion has already moved off towards the northeast. Greenwood, though, we may get some of that wind coming out of the west for you. Fort Smith, any minute now, we're going to see this wall of wind start to come through. 70+ mile an hour wind gusts. Most likely going to be leading into some potential damaging wind gusts and power outages as a potential. We showed you that hail core earlier, not populating very great, so maybe not seeing a lot of hail moving through the river valley as we head into the rest of this morning now. But as we get into Muldrow, those straight line winds trying to push through as well. A lot of lightning being produced out of this system. I'll show you the river valley view. Waldron, you got a large lightning core over here right now, just seeing a very good lightning show. Not necessarily those straight line winds. We're talking about these light colors right here where the strongest winds are. Look out for that right there. Where the strongest winds are right now, just on the south side of Fort Smith, just outside of Greenwood. Again, they extended that severe thunderstorm warning. Probably going to see that trend continuing throughout the rest of this morning. Let's see what the latest update on this severe thunderstorm warning is. Again, includes most of going out till 1:30 a.m. Good news is that we're kind of flip-flopping now. So that severe thunderstorm warning that went ahead of the one where we're talking about 70 mile an hour wind gusts and nickel-size hail, flip-flopping now. They're only reading 60 mile an hour wind gusts, now going up to quarter-size hail, though. So now going back to hail being our most dominant threat once we get into this next severe thunderstorm warning. Again, that's most likely going to change because it's going way out ahead of ourselves. We'll pull up radar just to show you how far away. So mainly, probably, the reason they're issuing this severe thunderstorm warning is the scattered showers that are outrunning where those straight line winds are right now. Mountainburg, you're seeing a good downpour right now. We're seeing some of that lightning just further down towards the south. And this is why we're starting to see this next severe thunderstorm warning going into all of Crawford County, now reaching up into Washington County and Franklin County as well, because these scattered showers are really starting to try to outrun themselves just a little bit. Straight line winds right over Fort Smith now. We'll track it out. Van Buren at 12:43, so right now Van Buren's starting to see some of those straight line winds. Paris at 105, Ozark 112, Clarksville at 134. So got some time. Oh, let's see. Yeah, got some time for folks in Clarksville, Ozark, and Paris. Van Buren only right now 12:43 is when we're seeing those straight line winds. Van Buren seeing the heaviest of those right now. Good news is for folks in, let's see here, Greenwood, you're just seeing those that heavy rainfall right now. Some lightning strikes, straight line winds have already pushed through. Fort Smith just almost outside of the window for those straight line winds. Once that leading edge gets past us, then we don't have to worry about those damaging wind gusts as much anymore. Still going to be very windy outside, but it's just that leading edge that we're most concerned about. So now we're focusing on folks in Van Buren as this is trying to hold together. Those straight line winds pushing through Van Buren just here in the next couple of minutes or so. We'll show you our DMA view. Again, while we're focusing on this cell that's pushed out of southeastern Oklahoma, now over into the river valley, we're also waiting on is this line of thunderstorms that most likely, if it's holding its track, this is also going to affect the river valley, but now we're also going to include portions of northwest Arkansas. We mentioned how this cell moving out of Oklahoma hasn't produced a tornado warning, hasn't shown any signs of rotation just yet. What has shown signs of rotation and now currently has a tornado warning just to the northeast of Tulsa is this line of thunderstorms that's been capable of producing over 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Still got a while to go before we get closer towards the state line, but that's also going to be our main focus as we push closer towards 2 a.m., 3 a.m. That's what's going to be coming over across the state line into northwest Arkansas in the river valley. The system that started off across just right on the border of southern Oklahoma has now kind of pushed off towards the northeast and is not as strong as that line of thunderstorms coming out of Tulsa right now, but it is still crossing over the severe thunderstorm limit. It's almost kind of opening up the night for us. The good news is that since these are producing, have the intensity that they do right now, we may not have enough energy as this line gets closer towards the river valley to continue with those severe thunderstorm warnings. Once these have kind of already pushed through, they take up all that energy and maybe not producing as much in the way of severe weather across portions of the river valley. Obviously, we have to wait to see what this line of thunderstorms is going to do when we get closer towards the state line. But right now, those damaging winds, again, still causing some potential damage across portions of already moved through Fort Smith, and now we're talking about moving into Van Buren. We'll go ahead and take off this track. The good news is if you've been with us for about 30 minutes or so, we started off with this line of thunderstorms, a very definite line of thunderstorms across LaFleur County. See how this is kind of just all starting to fall apart now? We went from 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts to only 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. If we fall below 60, then we'll lose our severe thunderstorm warning. But we are picking up on is the larger hail. We went from nickel-size hail to quarter-size hail. We'll show you the hail tracker again. Again, this is just an estimate of what's picking up. Franklin County, now you're starting to show up on some potentially damaging hail. Just based off of radar, it looks like Fort Smith got lucky, except for the south side of Fort Smith, maybe seeing some pea-size hail. But as long as we're in that gray, we're not really talking about the potential for damaging. Greenwood saw some of that probably nickel-size hail move through. And then now Ozark, just south side of Ozark, to the northwest of Paris in Logan County, this is damaging hail right here. So if this continues its track, maybe folks on the south side of Ozark are going to potentially be seeing some hail, as long as along with those straight line winds trying to come through. I'm going to go back because I keep on seeing in our Facebook live chat folks talking about power outages. We'll refresh this. Again, this might not be up to date. Yeah, only still in the single digits still for folks in Sebastian County for power outages. Oklahoma really starting to see statewide. We're talking about starting to pick up on those power outages. Still for LaFleur County, only reading at around 400 power outages. Sequoia in the single digits. So I think what happened is for LaFleur County, those straight line winds were starting to come together just a bit, and they didn't develop in time, so they just crossed over right when we got close to the river is when those straight line winds really started to form. We'll pull up chat again, and then we will show you sweeping radar. Whoops. Lightning, sweeping radar. All right. Good news is, again, not really forming that straight line that we get when we're starting to see those 70-plus mile-an-hour wind gusts. This is starting to collapse on itself a little bit, outrun itself. So now we're starting to talk about just good thunderstorms moving through portions of Paris, moving into Franklin County. We saw those hailstones, southern portions of Franklin County. Good news is for Fort Smith, those straight line winds are done. Actually, probably within the next 30 minutes or so, you'll probably see the heavy rainfall end as well. That's all before this second wave comes out of central Oklahoma. And then we'll be trying to see if there's enough energy in the atmosphere to still produce that severe weather that we've been talking about. LaFleur County without a severe thunderstorm warning currently. DMA view, still holding on to that rotation just to the northeast of Tulsa. I know the severe thunderstorm warning for folks in the River Valley also includes portions of Washington and Madison County. The rainfall hasn't even crossed over the county line yet, so they're just extending these out ahead of themselves just because of the potential for some damaging winds. And that's a good, I don't know if you saw that right there, that's a good movement right there. We're not necessarily moving directly to the northeast now, kind of trying to start working towards the east. We'll be starting to try to move out of 5 Country here in the next couple of hours. But Johnson County, you're going to be up next with a really good lightning show. Some strong winds below the severe limit right now on the south side of Johnson County. Franklin County, really only one spot of hail showing up right now. That severe thunderstorm warning is going to go out until 1:30. So we've got about 40 minutes or so still left on this. I doubt they will cancel this severe thunderstorm warning unless we drastically lose those wind gusts or that hail. And right now our hail is actually ticking back up again, still for the severe thunderstorm warning, only holding on to 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts in that hail. So I'm actually going to show, we just showed, I'm going to pull up hail again just to make sure that we're not really starting to pick up on this hail core. Still holding on to its strength. Again, southern Franklin County is starting to see some of these hail cores move through. Good news is, as it's tracked towards the northeast, we went from this dark blue to kind of this gray, so kind of pulsing down just a bit. As long as we still hang on to this gray, we're not holding on to that damaging hail. Once we hold on to this blue, that's estimating anywhere between a nickel to quarter-size hail. Once we cross over the quarter size, that's when we're potentially talking about damaging hail. I'll pull up sweeping radar for you. I'll pull up velocity actually, show you where those strong wind gusts are right now. Just kind of press through here, still kind of trying to form a straight line right there. Even though we're not seeing it on a radar, those winds still coming together. South side of Mountainburg, you're going to be seeing a strong wind gust push through as well. Zoom in closer here. We're kind of seeing this dark red and that pink kind of meat is where those are those strongest wind gusts right now. Right along the I-40 corridor is where we're pushing through with those wind gusts. I'm going to zoom in closer to this specific area right here. We're almost seeing white versus. So Kibler, you just saw strong straight line winds move through. Alma, we've been talking about tracking that out. Originally estimated closer towards 1 a.m. I'd say here in the next couple of minutes, you're probably going to see those straight line winds push through as well. As we head closer towards Mulberry, we'll track that out right now. Alma High School, currently right now. Dyer in about 5 minutes, Mulberry closer towards 1 a.m. So about 10 minutes from now is when we're talking about these straight line winds, if they hold together, potentially reaching up into Mulberry. We'll scroll through our Facebook live chat real quick. Well, we're talking about, a lot of folks talking about power outage potentially in Fort Smith. We can't necessarily see that right now on our power outages map, but as we continue on over the next 30 minutes or so, we'll potentially be seeing more of those numbers populate. Chief Meteorologist Matt Standridge has decided to come on in a little bit early for you, and he's going to take things over hopefully on big board here in a little bit. It looks like he's got quite the lightning show to show you in Ozark. And that's what we were talking about earlier. I mean, those cameras, while they're not going to show you much in the way of rainfall, what you're going to see is kind of just a strobe light effect going on right now. Matt, you want to go ahead and take it over for us over on the big board?
Yeah, we've had a lot of lightning strikes, and a lot of our cameras are now down across 5 Country because of the intense lightning. I want to show you what it looks like outside in Ozark while we still have this camera, but you can see how crazy it is across 5 Country. Hey, Stephen, if you want, you may want to move your car underneath that that awning out there if you want to. Go ahead and take a break. Thank you, Stephen, for covering these storms. We're going to keep bouncing back and forth throughout the overnight hours, tracking these storms with you. There are mainly two complexes, one in the River Valley and then one that's in northeast Oklahoma headed towards northwest Arkansas. Two separate storms, but they may collide here shortly. I want to take you to a wide view with Max Doppler 5. What's going on so far this evening? So let's go ahead and bring that up. I think we got the, maybe change this. Hold on just a second. There it goes. All right, now we're in game. Cold front coming in, helping to spark these storms, using the heat and humidity that we built throughout the day. Two complexes coming on through. The southern one has already hit us in the River Valley, continues to hit us. But like Stephen's been mentioning, it's a little bit more disorganized. And when that's taking place, we're actually starting to uptick the hail. But the wind threat is still there, but it's a little bit more blotchy across the River Valley. It's not just a wall of wind. However, when you go to that northern storm, the one that just blasted through Tulsa with up to 100-mile-per-hour winds, is now just blasting towards northwest Arkansas. New severe thunderstorm warnings go up all the way into the state line with Arkansas and Oklahoma. So two separate storms. They're both headed towards us. River Valley, we're kind of getting the first round right now. We're going to start in the River Valley because that's where we have the most active storm here in 5 country. But lots of lightning strikes all the way from Fort Smith and Arcoma, now coming into Clarksville. You're starting to hear that thunder in Clarksville, but all up and down I-49. We've got the rumbles of thunder. Severe thunderstorm warning continues for northern Sebastian County, Crawford County, and the majority of Franklin County, and then even southern Washington and southern Madison counties too. Much of the storm activity is right along the Arkansas River and right along I-40 and south of I-40. Several clumps of lightning headed right into Ozark and Mulberry, Paris, Mount Magazine. We're starting to get that heavy rain and that thunder coming into Charleston and Lavaca, Bloomer. We're getting it too. Starting to lighten things up in Poto, Spiro, Salisaw. Still some rain and rumbles of thunder, but we're not getting that intense storm that we had earlier. Farther to the south, we've still had a lot of rain and it's been very loud, but the wind hasn't been as bad. It's still been bad, 40 to 50 mile per hour winds, but that 60 to 70 mile per hour wind that we were getting hit us in Fort Smith and Greenwood and continues to move eastbound towards the Ozark area. I'm going to pull up some extra numbers here just on the side while we take a look at some of these storms as they're blasting on through. Right now, the core of the wind is coming through Logan County. Right in here. See this little bulge coming through? That's where we have the strongest storm. Now, more lightning is farther towards the north because of hail threats, which we're going to get to in a second, but that wind threat is really pushing through Logan County. You can see it right here with that bright red, right over Mount Magazine. Mount Magazine's about here, coming into Paris, and we're estimating wind speeds 60 to 65 miles per hour blasting through. There's probably going to be a new severe thunderstorm warning coming shortly for Logan County because of this quick uptick that we're noticing push across the county. Paris, and then, of course, Mount Magazine, we're coming in next. But Coxville, Subiaco, Blue Mountain, heavy wind coming towards us. Mount Magazine's here. We've got the town of Magazine that's already getting the wind right now. But if you live in eastern Logan County, from Morrison Bluff to Scranton, Subiaco, Shoal Creek, you need to be on lookout because that wind threat is increasing on this storm. Now, farther to the north, we have wind too, but the wind is now closer to 55 to 60 miles per hour, so we're right on the threshold of that severe threat coming in across Franklin County. We just had it blow through parts of Mulberry and Dyer. Mulberry, we're right on the edge, but Dyer, Alma, Kibler, Lavaca, Bloomer, we've been getting that wind. Charleston getting that wind too, but is now headed right towards Ozark. That storm is already sitting over Ozark, but the wind is just behind some of this extreme lightning that we're getting all across the River Valley. In fact, it is loud from Paris to Ozark as you're traveling between the two Logan and Franklin counties, and it continues to expand in Johnson County right now. But this core of wind is really blasting us. We got to watch this closely. This is going to continue to push right from Paris, south side of Paris, over Mount Magazine, and then we're going to be next in Shoal Creek and Subiaco here shortly, as we continue to just pass along in Arkansas 22. So Subiaco would be next, and then as we get to Midway and Shoal Creek or in New Blaine and Delaware, we're going to be watching this storm come in. Fort Smith, the wind is starting to die down a little bit, still gusty, but the main wind threat for Crawford and Sebastian counties is now coming into Mulberry. So getting out of the Dean Springs and Alma area, we have it now, but it's going to be moving out shortly, headed into Mulberry, and then as you get into Ozark, that's where we're going to be headed next, and White Oak, White Rock, Cravens, Webb City, right along and north of the Arkansas River. We're about to get some of that wind. I want to show you a couple more things. This is showing you the hail that we have. We've been dancing with some of these hail cores for a while now, but mainly pea-sized and dime-sized across Franklin County now, there was that core that we had there shortly, just passing north of Paris. So anywhere between, you'd be near Ratcliffe and Roseville. So Roseville, you go just north, you barely hit the river, and then north into Webb City. We've been having some of that hail, but right over Roseville and Ratcliffe, we've had some of this hail pass on through. But it looks like it's struggling a little bit, might be cycling at this time. More hail extending right along the Arkansas River coming in towards Coal Hill and Hartman. Morrison Bluff, we're starting to get some of that hail. But Clarksville, we could be next, and Lamar, and headed to Knoxville and Delaware. We're going to be watching some of this hail come in closer to us too. The hail threats are now ending in Fort Smith with this particular storm. Poto, same story. Greenwood, we're ending with some of that hail. We had a quick pocket of some larger hail on the southeast side of Greenwood and kind of clipping the south end of Fort Chaffee. But Paris, we've got some hail around us, especially north side. So Paris is interesting because once you go north of town, once you go north, we have the chance for more of the hail. Once you head south of Mercy Hospital and you're headed south towards the Paris Reservoir before you get to Mount Magazine, that's where we have the wind threat that's blowing on through. Don't be surprised if we get a new severe thunderstorm warning here shortly in Logan County. So that's taking a look here. Oh, actually, here's a closer look. You can see Roseville where we're getting some of that hail now, and then it kind of just travels right along the Arkansas River, Scranton, Coal Hill, getting some of that hail too. Clarksville will be next. We're going to be watching up and down 64 to watch some of that hail. Mulberry, Ozark, you see off towards the west, we have some hail around us. Sometimes the rain is just so heavy that it just mixes in with some of these small hailstones. So watch out for that. Still that severe thunderstorm warning continuing across Franklin County. But this is a nasty storm. But you got to watch here on this end where this bulge is starting to poke out, where we have that gusty wind threat. And we'll have to watch too. Sometimes you start to rotate the atmosphere a little bit on the north end of these bulges. Right now, no severe thunderstorm warning coming to the National Weather Service, but winds 2,000 feet, because that's our best guess, above Paris are at 60 to 65 miles per hour. So we'll continue to watch that wind. That doesn't mean all the wind gets down to the ground in Paris, but we do have some gusty winds right above us. And so we'll see how that kind of interacts with the city and Paris Reservoir and headed into Cove Lake and Mount Magazine here shortly as that pushes on through. But man, that lightning is crazy in between Paris and Roseville right now. You go on 309 north and you get towards the Arkansas River, man, it's loud. This is some intense lightning going on. And when you look at the lightning, you can see different parts of the thunderstorm where it may be growing. And in fact, when you look over time, it looks like we're starting to get a couple more lightning strikes. Some of that too, the storm looks like it's beefing up, but one thing is we're starting to get a little bit less rain around the radar so it can get a better picture of this storm. When you have a lot of rain around the radar, sometimes it kind of interferes with all the other storms, so something to watch. All right, wide view. Again, that's storm number one. And to be honest, the next storm could be even stronger. It has been stronger. We've had 90 to 100 mile per hour winds push across green country. Our producers are getting ready already for our morning newscast. They're watching this storm and they're watching some of the power outages. Sometimes the reporting on the power outages takes some time to come into us. You guys, of course, are the first ones to let us know. You say, hey, my power's out now. Those reports really do help. But we're going to get more official numbers here shortly. So your guys' reports help us out because the reports are not in yet. But this is just plowing down Highway 412 and headed towards the state line. This is the stronger thunderstorm. It has more organization to it. Kind of looks like a boomerang headed towards northwest Arkansas. The apex of this bow or this boomerang, that's where we have the gustiest winds. And at times we've had tornado warnings. We have a tornado warning right now as you're getting close to Miami. A little bit farther north would Miami be. We're going to continue to watch that on the north end of this bow that we get those circulations. But man, this is some gusty wind that's coming through right now across green country. You see all these severe thunderstorm warnings lining up towards the state line. It's interesting because this storm out towards the east is starting to eat up a lot of energy across the river valley, which is good. So that means maybe the southern end of this line will continue to weaken as it maybe moves into this environment. But you go from Lake Tenkiller to Tahlequah, north to Little Kansas and Highway 412, and then all the way north to Bartlesville in Oklahoma. We have not had a storm yet, and we don't have any storms across northwest Arkansas. So this one's clear to go. This one's clear to move right in. We have this rear inflow jet that's coming in that's helping to push this thing eastbound to the state line. So let's take a closer look at this cell. Let's diagnose a couple things. This is with Max Doppler 5 now looking at some of this radar data. A lot of lightning on the leading edge. But right along the leading edge, that's where you have your gusty wind threat as it's pushing towards Oaks and Siloam Springs right now. Here's the latest on some of the timing. This is moving about 40 to 45 miles per hour, but it's been putting out 80, 90, 100 mile per hour winds. Coming into northwest Arkansas, here we're probably within the next 45 to 60 minutes. You can see Fayetteville and Bentonville right around 220 or so, but probably hitting the state line before that, somewhere right around 145, heading to 2 o'clock. You see Siloam Springs estimated time, 147. So that's a good estimate of hitting the state line. It's going to hit Siloam Springs probably first. In fact, when you kind of track out the bow, which is right here, that puts us in the direct line of fire into Siloam Springs and into parts of Springdale. So it's going to head right down Highway 412. So Siloam Springs, Tawnytown, and Springdale, we're going to be watching. Steven, you got another update on maybe the wind?
No.
Or
News for thunderstorm warning for Logan and Johnson County going out until 2 a.m.
okay, let me back this up. We were talking about that wind earlier. So this is the new warning that Steven's talking about, mainly due to this wind that's coming right across Mount Magazine. You can see the new outline coming out. It'll fill in here in a moment. But a new severe thunderstorm warning for eastern Logan County and southern Johnson County. Because of this wind, if you take Paris and you go south, watching that wind threat just push right across Arkansas 22, headed to Subiaco and Midway next. You go north, and we have more of a hail threat right now, pushing across the Arkansas River and into Scranton and Morrison Bluff, and then Clarksville, of course, we're next. So once again, new severe thunderstorm warning coming out for the eastern River Valley. Looks like this storm is starting to try to exit the previous warning. You see it still over Ozark, where we're under that severe thunderstorm warning at this time. But eventually we're going to get this expired or at least trimmed to not include Fort Smith and Van Buren anymore. It's still raining, especially on the other side of the river for Van Buren. We're getting that rain, Mead Creek Reservoir, east to Dean Springs and Alma, getting some of that rain. But it's going to be wrapping up here shortly. But if you live in eastern Logan County, Subiaco, Midway, anywhere towards Big Shoal and the Mount Magazine area, got to watch out for this cell coming through. Paris, we've already getting the wind, and the wind continues to blow for us. So look, there's the new trim. Still technically includes Fort Smith, but we're going to continue to get this storm trimmed by the National Weather Service. What they're trimming is northwestern Crawford County, so Uniontown, Cedarville, the Natural Dam area, and the Crawford County Speedway. We are still under a warning, but you're about to be canceled. New one's coming out. What they do is they issue the new one, they'll trim it, and then eventually they'll expire the old one. So it just takes some time, a couple different steps here. But we're watching that hail threat, mainly in Roseville, Paris, headed into Scranton, Morrison Bluff, Clarksville, Knoxville. I wouldn't be surprised if you start getting some hail too. There's a lot of rain with this cell, so some of the rain is really mixing with some of this hail. But this is smaller hail. We still have some hailstones that could be up to quarter size, but I do think a lot of this is probably close to pea and dime size, maybe even nickel sized hail, especially where you have that lighter gray, which is right over Paris and Roseville and headed to Morrison Bluff. Morrison Bluff's about here, just north of Scranton, before you head over the river into Clarksville. That's where we have some of that nickel sized hail. The darker gray is a smaller hail, maybe pea-sized hail. So we'll continue to watch that. Here's a little bit farther south, kind of going all the way up and down 309. We have some hail reporting. But that wind threat is pushing over Mount Magazine, and some of that terrain, you can see some of that terrain across Logan County, right in here on the map, getting that wind to blow right through the mountainsides there. So once again, hail and wind, and of course, a lot of lightning coming through. Real quick, I'm going to go back and check that camera. We still got it. You're not going to see much because it's raining so heavily, but you're just going to see the camera flash like crazy out there. It's very loud across Franklin County. Once again, a wide view, storm off towards the north. We have more cells really developing closer to and south of Mena, headed to Hot Springs. In fact, we got a tornado warning there a little bit south of Hot Springs, south of Lake Ouachita. More storms headed to Little Rock, so Little Rock, Conway, they're going to be next. Let's go ahead and zoom in and then take one more look at this cell, and then we want to talk about that cell just off towards the north and west. You really see a push of wind. Don't like this because on the north end that starts to try to mechanically rotate the atmosphere. We got to keep an eye on that. But right now you've got some wind speeds. Let me see. Let me try to estimate some of these. Right at that core. Now, once again, this doesn't mean everything is quite reaching the ground, but we are estimating about 80 mile per hour winds. This would be about 2,000, 2,500 feet above the ground, which is probably clipping the top of Mount Magazine with 80 to 90 mile per hour winds. So you go on top of the mountain, the wind is going to be stronger than the wind necessarily in Paris and Scranton and Morrison Bluff. But huge gust of wind pushing on through. Got to watch the north end. You got an update, Stephen?
Tornado warning in Delaware County, so not in our viewing area yet, but that system coming out of Oklahoma is producing some rotation. Again, you mentioned it.
Yep.
The cell that we've been talking about across southeastern Oklahoma, pushing into Logan and Johnson County. Oh, tornado warning, actually. Matt, you want to go back down?
There it is.
Clarksville.
All right, so,
Okay,
hey, Trevor, we need to go ahead and go on air at Channel 5. Let me know when we're on. I'm just going to continue to run. Stephen, are you able to push an alert on the live stream that we currently have?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and push an alert. Tornado warning because of that gust of wind that we're talking about right now, pushing over Logan County. Trevor, you got me? Let me know if you need anything from me. I appreciate you. Tornado warning, Logan County, east of Paris. This includes Morrison Bluff, Scranton, Shoal Creek, and then southern Johnson County from Knoxville to Lamar. Tornado warning, you need to make sure that you are in your safe place. We're watching a huge gust of wind right now push across Logan County, and it's helping to mechanically rotate there on the north side. Okay, here we go. This is a closer look. Okay, we're on air. All right, if you guys are just joining us on Channel 5, we have a live stream on all our platforms on 5 Plus and the 5 News app, so you can always get coverage there. We're hopping on the airwaves right now. New tornado warning for Logan County and southern Johnson County. Huge push of wind. We've got some 90-mile-per-hour winds pushing with this cell east of Paris, and on the north side, we have a little bit of that rotation. I'm going to step off for just a second. I'll be right back with you. I'm going to zoom in on this storm for you and show you exactly what we're talking about. This is coming through Scranton, Morrison Bluff, headed right towards the Arkansas River. This is probably going to say just south of Clarksville, but if you are in Lamar, from Spadra, Knoxville, cross over the Arkansas River at Morrison Bluff, heading into Scranton, that's where this circulation is headed through. We've got the potential for tornado to touch down at any time because of this gust of wind. What's going on is this light color, almost now an orangey color because the winds are so strong. In fact, we're estimating winds higher up in the atmosphere to now be almost 100 miles per hour. That doesn't mean we're getting all the wind at the ground. But what's that doing? It's helping to rotate the storm that could potentially now put down a tornado. Coming through the Scranton and Morrison Bluff area, Shoal Creek as well. You need to be making sure that you're in your tornado safe spot if you live in eastern Logan County, up and down 22, from Subiaco east. So Paris, you are not underneath this tornado warning, but if you do live in Shoal Creek, Scranton, Morrison Bluff, you need to be making sure that you're in your tornado safe spot. This is where that cell is, kind of right in this notch. See this notch that's coming in Scranton? That's where we have the most rotation coming on through, and we'll continue to watch that right here coming in to eastern Logan County. I'm going to pull up a couple different things off to the side for a second as we try to take a look, see if anything we see trying to touch the ground. It's hard to say. There is a little bit of a messy radar beam in southwestern Scranton, so this would be right where that notch is. So southwest side, this would be south, coming right over Greasy Valley Road. So you go south of Scranton, Greasy Valley Road, you go over that bridge, you've got the little lake there. That's exactly where we're talking about, headed into Subiaco. So anywhere from the Geneva Park, the Subiaco Abbey, that's where I believe they have the monk sauce, the Trojan Stadium, you got the Subiaco baseball fields, and then you head west past the co-op, is where we have that gusty wind threat. You got some rotation?
You want me to pull up shear?
Yeah, if you could pull it up on there, that'd be great. So we're going to pull up the rotation. You're going to see exactly where we're looking for this rotation. So between Subiaco and Scranton, you look east, so Shoal Creek and Scranton, got to be looking out. Once again, that road, Greasy Valley Road, headed out of Scranton, going south, and you cross over the lake. That's exactly where this thing is going. Here's a closer look here. Subiaco, there's Sand Ridge. You go a little bit farther to the east, we have Prairie View and Shoal Creek. This is this rotation. I'm looking at some radar data, and it does look like, I think we do have a tornado on the ground. Hey, Stephen, if you're able to maybe push an alert, possible tornado on the ground just south of Scranton. We're starting to get a debris right here. That's south of Scranton, coming right over the little lake. I don't remember what the lake is. Probably Subiaco something, Subiaco Reservoir. Up and down Greasy Valley Road. If you live anywhere near Greasy Valley Road, you can even see the radar is starting to pick up on some extra wind right there. Northern Logan County, possible tornado on the ground south of Scranton and south of Subiaco. So right around the Subiaco area, headed south toward the Subiaco Reservoir, that's where we have this possible tornado on the way. The Mount Magazine Scenic Byway cuts just south of that, so we're going to have to watch that as well with this possible touchdown. Just looking at some data, it does look like there's...
They just trimmed it.
They just trimmed it? Okay. Now it's on the southeast side of Scranton. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. So once again, meteorologist Stephen Elmore, he's helping me track this storm. There's that trimming that you see. But right here over Prairie View and the southeast side of Scranton is where we have the most rotation. Tokelon, we're next. This thing is headed towards southern Johnson County next. We start to get really rural here for a while. That correlation coefficient really went up. I don't know if you're looking at that. It's quite a debris ball headed right towards Knoxville and Lamar. This is going to probably stay just south of Clarksville, but possible tornado south of Scranton headed towards Knoxville and Lamar.
A confirmed tornado located over Scranton or 8 miles south of Clarksville, moving east at 45 miles per hour.
All right, confirmed tornado coming in from the National Weather Service. Confirmed tornado southeast side of Scranton, about right here over Prairie View.
I'm going to draw out the
headed
cone.
towards the north and east. I appreciate that.
Yep.
So it has now left the reservoir. It's headed right towards Ellsworth Road and Midway, and then north. There you go. So coming out of Scranton,
Yeah.
we're headed towards some of those Arkansas River bottoms. Tokelon, we're next. I mean, this is some rural country out here. But the next thing that you have on the other side of the river will be Lamar and Knoxville. There's the timing, Tokelon 119, Lamar 128. Tornado on the ground right now. Probably about to cross the Arkansas River within the next 5 minutes. If you're in southeastern Johnson County, Garrett, Knoxville, Lamar, Bend, got to be in your safe place. That means you get away from as many walls as you can, try to get as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Big rotation here. We have a huge gust of wind that in the upper levels pushing 100 miles per hour to the east, and it's turned this tornado on the southeast side of Scranton. Still have the debris ball just about 5 miles west of Knoxville. So we got this debris ball. It's headed towards you guys. Knoxville, Lamar, got to be in your safe place. Confirmed tornado about to cross the Arkansas River. This thing is plowing east about 45 miles per hour. So this, and it's pretty large too. When I'm looking at some of the data, this thing could be over about a half mile wide. There's a lot of debris being picked up southeast side of Scranton, headed east-northeast. New scan coming in from the radar right over Tokelon. Scranton and Prairie View, the tornado has now passed you guys, but in the Tokelon area and just about to get to the Arkansas River. So a couple things in that area. You got the Ware Chapel area right along 197, and then right before you get to the Arkansas River bottoms, right where this white line is, that's where the Arkansas River is. You're going to pass over Lake Dardanelle. If you live anywhere near Cabin Creek, there's that there's the park on the south side. You go north to the Lookout. You head towards Knoxville. You go past the Dollar General, headed north on 64. You go past the Red Oak gas station, and you come right into Lamar. This is where this tornado is headed, on the ground, eastern Logan County. Make sure you're in the safe place. So now this is leaving Scranton, Shoal Creek, Subiaco, and Paris. You guys are now safe from this tornado. But this tornado is just about, you can see right there. Most of some of this is being picked up, but it's right here on the southeast side, so it's starting to clear the Scranton area. There's not a lot here. It's some beautiful river country just south and west of the river, but it's headed right towards Knoxville and Lamar. It should stay just south of Clarksville, but we do have that confirmed tornado on the ground. We're getting an update from the severe thunderstorm warning, I believe, is too. With this storm, whether you get hit by the tornado or not, there's still a lot of gusty winds that are just blowing on through, headed right to the Arkansas River. New scan coming in. Let's see what we got. Still a debris ball. It looks maybe slightly smaller. The problem is It's hard to tell because there's not as much being picked up right now. But you have a huge gust of wind. Sorry, say that again.
You want that coefficient?
Yeah, if you could put it all up for a second. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here's that debris ball that we're talking about. This green and yellow color. Notice how it's different than everything else. This is that debris ball just about to cross over the river. I think a new scan's just about to come in on mine. But Lamar High School is right in the path of this storm. From Lamar High School to the Dollar General there on the north side of Knoxville. Stephen's getting a track here. Let's put that through. So Garrett, 127, 131 for Hickeytown. This is just about to cross the river. Scranton and Shoal Creek. Man, it's loud, but the tornado has now passed you guys. You can see the tornado where it is on the ground. And you always got to move it a little bit farther because the sand comes in late, right? So this thing is probably crossing the Arkansas River, just starting to, and then headed east. So once again, the Cabin Creek area, Lake Dardanelle. So the river gets a little bit wider here, so we call it Lake Dardanelle, but it's all part of just the river system. You cross over, new scan coming in, about to cross the river, headed right towards Knoxville. So Knoxville, anywhere from, about the Dollar General, north to Lamar High School. That's where this thing is probably going. But if you are in Knoxville or Lamar, you got to get your safe place. Tornado warning continues for eastern Logan County into southern Johnson County. This is going to stay south of Clarksville. But as soon as you get south of Clarksville, that's where this thing picks up from Lamar to Knoxville. That's where this thing is headed. Knoxville City Park. You go north along Highway 64. You got some of those auto sale places that are right on the strip there. You got the hole in the wall. You head towards the Red Oak gas station. There's the Lamar RV park. And then you come into Lamar. You pass over Harris Pond, which is just off of 64. Just want to kind of give you as many landmarks as possible. But Lamar into Warrior Stadium, just south of the high school, middle school, and elementary school. This is where this thing is headed. Could you bring in just the rotation tracker again? Take a look at that when you have a chance. As this thing is plowing over the river right now. Now, as it goes over the river, it's very hard to get a debris ball because there's not a lot it can pick up. So you see how it's starting to get a little messy right now? There's not a lot for it to hit, which is good, but it's harder to see. When things are being hit, you see things in the radar beam, and so it's a little bit easier to track, unfortunately, but that's how things work here with the radar. But we're crossing the Arkansas River and Lake Dardanelle right now and coming right towards Lamar and Knoxville. You got to be in your safe place. At times, this debris ball has been measured to be a little over a half mile wide. Hard to exactly say how wide this tornado could be at this time, but this is crossing over the river, headed towards Cabin Creek. If you live in the Cabin Creek area, be in your safe spot. This is coming over the Arkansas River as we speak, about 45 miles per hour. This thing is plowing right towards Knoxville. You see some of that rotation coming over the river now. Knoxville, Lamar, it may be trending a little bit farther south towards the Knoxville area. So that would put this right over Cabin Creek. You head anywhere from there's the outdoor market on the south side. You go past Dollar General. You go north to Knoxville City Park. And then 64, right where you're basically watching I-40 on the right-hand side of your car. You're going north. North side of Knoxville is especially going to be impacted by this confirmed tornado that's on the ground. Once again, confirmed by the National Weather Service. We can see it in our radar beam right now as it's tracking east, 45 miles per hour. If you live in Logan County, okay, it has crossed the river now. You see that? This is coming right where 64 and I-49 basically touch. You go right along there. I'm looking at some traffic data as well. Traffic is now moving slower right along 64 and I-40 as this tornado is likely crossing over the Lamar RV park. You got the quarry on the other side. There's the Harris Pond area. You go anywhere north to Warrior Stadium and the elementary school, and south of the elementary school for Lamar, up and down 64, south of Sweet Treats, south of Big Papa's Barbecue, anywhere between the Dollar General and Lamar to the Dollar General in Knoxville, this thing is crossing over. But we are looking at some slowing traffic on I-40 and Highway 64, watching this possible tornado continue to push on through. It's very hard to see right now because it's been crossing over the river, and once it hits the bank, there's just a lot of trees, and you've got the Cabin Creek area, so hard to see. Plus, not only do we have a rain-wrapped tornado, which is harder to see, we have a lot of wind pushing through Knoxville, which could be the equivalent of even an EF0 tornado hitting the whole town of Knoxville just with that wind speed. But the tornado itself would be on the north side, probably has now crossed I-64 or Highway 64 and I-40, right over the Harris Pond, right over the quarry. Next, you're going to head towards 2650, which is coming out of Lamar, and the north end of the Piney Bay Campground. This is going to be next. Once again, tornado warning, Johnson County, now headed west, or headed east towards Pope County. If you live near the Piney Bay Campground, this thing is headed towards you guys. And then the Hickeytown RV Park, which is a little bit farther north. There's that inlet that's coming out. The Big Piney Creek that goes from the Arkansas River and northbound towards Piney Bay. This is where that possible tornado is pushing on through. It's very hard to tell. Yeah, it's so messy now. So messy now. It's hard to say if there's a tornado on the ground still. But we did have a tornado from Scranton and the Shoal Creek area, and it has moved east, crossed over Tokelon, and then crossed over the Arkansas River, and we still had a debris ball coming into Lamar, but now it's a little bit harder to see. There's that rotation. You look at the easternmost one, probably has now crossed
No warning.
Highway 64. Sorry, say that again?
No warning.
The warning's just been canceled by the National Weather Service? All right, because you really don't see it anymore. Tornado warning now canceled for southeastern Johnson County and eastern Logan County. But we did have a tornado touchdown. We're going to try to get more information on cleanup and where it exactly pushed on through, what it hit, how folks are doing. We're going to try to get that information for you overnight. Make sure you tune in by tomorrow morning for our 5 News at 6 and 7, and we'll have some more information coming to you. But once again, severe thunderstorm warning continues because we still have a lot of gusty winds that are 60 to 75 miles per hour. At the upper level, still estimating some winds around 90 or so. Still watching a slowdown on Highway 64 and I-40, and a lot of times when that happens is you had a tornado cross over the interstate, and that, of course, slows traffic and could also have caused possible crashes and accidents along the interstate. It will take a while before we get official reports, but I do want to tell you there are slowdowns being reported when you're looking at traffic maps on Highway 40 and Highway 64. All right, now we got to go west and north. That storm is really hitting us hard in Johnson County and Logan County, but now we've got this one coming in northwest Arkansas. Let me see. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead, and I'm going to push through a couple things real quick. All right, let's zoom in on this storm. Pushing east. I'm going to estimate winds a little bit farther to the north and west, right up and down the state line. It's going to hit us in Colcord and Dripping Springs, Salem Springs first. Looks like the core of the wind, right where the apex of this boomerang is going to be just north of Salem Springs. So that puts us towards Gravette and Decatur and Gentry, Cherokee City. You're going up and down Highway 59, coming out past the airport, Salem Springs. You head north is where the core of this wind is going to be. But we have severe thunderstorm warnings that go all the way up northwest Arkansas, from the Bobby Hopper Tunnel north to Bella Vista, and then north into McDonald County. Everyone in northwest Arkansas is going to be impacted by this storm. Lots of lightning, and we do have rotation on the north side. That tornado warning is for Delaware County, north to J. That one will probably stay just outside of Arkansas. And when we're watching rotation potential, it's going to be the north side of this bow. You see this bow right here? You go to the north side. That's where you have that mechanical turning, pushing north and east from McDonald County. Hopefully that stays away from Arkansas. Right now it is trending that way, so that is good news. I want to show you a couple of different things. This is looking at hail. Not a lot of hail with this. It's mainly that wind threat. So here's the wind. In fact, it's so gusty that it's not even really showing up as red anymore on our radar. With Max Doppler 5, we're now estimating this with those orange and kind of peachy colors. And let me get you some wind speeds coming in here to northwest Arkansas. Let's see. All right. So we're estimating, has weakened just a little bit, but wind speeds right around 65 to 70 coming into northwest Arkansas. But still some gusts maybe close to 80 still. It's hard to say. We still maybe have 80 mile per hour winds right in here, headed towards Benton County and Washington County with this nasty derecho that's about to cross the state line. So we're just minutes away from us getting hit in Salem Springs. This thing has picked up its speed a little bit too. Salem Springs were first. Salem Springs, just a matter of moments before this thing hits us. And then farther north is probably going to cross the state line and hit us in Gentry and Decatur even harder. Gravette, we're going to be included on that. This is going to head right towards X and A. These are some really gusty winds. These are damaging winds. These are the kind of winds that you're putting down limbs. And because, of course, now we're in June, all the leaves are on the trees, of course, and that acts as a sail. So that tries to push trees even more, adds more weight as the wind is coming on through. But Bella Vista, Bentonville, Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville, into Greenland and West Fork, this thing is headed towards everyone in northwest Arkansas. It looks like the gustiest wind will hit us in Benton County. Let me get a couple extra things for you. This thing has increased now to 60 miles per hour for its actual speed, but we are still watching 80 mile per hour winds or greater at the surface pushing east. This storm originally, when it was hitting Tulsa, was only moving 40 miles per hour, but with 100 mile per hour winds. Now this thing is moving 65 miles per hour. You know, you're going just as fast or faster than folks going down Highway 412. So this thing is zooming. It's going to come right into Springdale and Rogers and Bentonville probably within the next 20 minutes. But the main threat with this will be the wind. There's still some rotation on the north side, but it probably keeps it to the north as it heads towards McDonald County next. But just a wall of wind for us next in Salem Springs, in Lincoln, in Prairie Grove, Bentonville, Bella Vista, Cave Springs, Elm Springs, Taneytown. You go into Washington County and Farmington, Greenland, West Fork, Prairie Grove, Johnson. This thing's coming right towards you guys. And it even extends a little bit farther south into northern Crawford County, although it's going to be gustier in Benton County just because of this notch right here. It's just plowing east-northeast. If I had to pick one town this is going to hit the hardest, it's probably going to hit X and A, and it's going to go right into the Bentonville area. That's what's going to be next. Rogers would be next in terms of gustiness, and then Fayetteville into Springdale may be a little bit weaker, but we're still talking maybe 70 mile per hour winds. But that 80 plus mile per hour wind is pushing across Benton County. In fact, it's just now coming in over the state line. I'll go back to wide view with max Doppler 5. Newsfield thunderstorm warning for eastern Johnson County, eastern Logan County. Lots of lightning continues to hit us right there from Clarksville into Scranton and Shoal Creek. Now it's moving towards Piney Bay, headed towards it'd be Russellville next and Pope County. But this storm is next. Northwest Arkansas, we haven't been touched. Rain is just now crossing over the state line. Salem Springs now getting the rain, and north along 59 in Decatur, Gravette, and Gentry. This thing is plowing off towards the east. Let's see. You can see really the winds on here too. Let me back things up a little bit. Here's another look at that wind. Let me get a quick update on some of these speeds for you. On my thing, I'm switching to a Tulsa radar. Maybe we can pummel through it and see some of these wind speeds a little bit better. Still estimating 80 plus mile per hour winds right in this core. Right in this core we'll have to watch, and that's helping produce still that tornado warning for northern Delaware County. That core of wind headed right into Benton County. So let's go ahead and look at a couple things that this is coming into for Benton County. So Gentry, you go north to Lake Flint Creek. That's north of Salem Springs. Wind coming in for you guys. The Eagle Watch Nature Trail, you go right into Gentry. So you guys know the Sonic, the Harps are right there. You go past the Wooden Spoon. That's coming right into you guys for Gentry. You go a little bit farther north and you come into the Gravette area. We're getting some of that wind pushing on through here at any moment. It's still kind of just towards our west, but it's going to come up or come east along 72 from Maysville and come right into Gravette. There's the old Spanish treasure cove that we have on the north side of Gravette, and we've got, forgot the name of the cave, but some of those caves that are near Gravette and just north of Gravette towards Sulphur Springs, we're about to be hit next. And then right there towards Southwest City, you got the marker there with Arkansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma, wind coming towards you guys. But the core of the wind is now crossing the state line right over Maysville. 102 comes out of Decatur. You go west of Decatur, that wind's picking up for us too. Let's see, I'm trying to get more wind speeds for you guys. But this thing's going to go anywhere from Eiffel, XNA, Osage Mills for that core of wind. That's going to be the most destructive right now. Stephen, do you by chance have any numbers on power outages, maybe for Oklahoma?
I'll give you Oklahoma in a second.
Yeah, what do you got?
Logan County.
Logan County?
About 2,800 power outages
Okay.
right now. Scott's a little over 100.
We got about 3,000. I'm just going to repeat what you said. Your mic went, maybe gone dead. We got 3,000 Logan County-ish.
300 in Franklin.
300 in Franklin.
And about 1,500 in Crawford.
1,500 in Crawford. Eventually, so that's that storm off towards the south. Sebastian around 650. Reports will probably still come in over time. It takes a while for everything to be reported to the power companies and for them to register, and then they put that information out there as soon as they can. But here in a little bit, we're going to try to get some, let me see, I may be able to pull up the browser really quick, just to see how many power outages are being reported after this cell that blew through Tulsa and headed right along Highway 412. Looks like a lot of counties are anywhere between 25% to 50% without power. Tulsa's closer to 20%. So anywhere from 20 to 50%. That's a lot of people per county. So this thing essentially is knocking up to about 50% of people's power because of those winds that are 80 plus miles per hour. Earlier it was at 100. Now we're closer to 80 plus. There could be some isolated gusts that could be approaching 90 miles per hour. This is an incredible storm. That would be essentially an EF0 that's as wide as Benton County that could hit everyone. That's how strong this storm is. We've been tracking the storm ever since it hit and formed over western Oklahoma. It's just been plowing through, finally crossing the state line, hitting us now, time at 1:37, crossing the state line. Salem Springs, we're getting hit. Up and down Highway 59, you go north of the airport of Salem Springs, we're getting hit. Gentry, Decatur, Gravette, this thing's coming in for us first. If you live in Bentonville, Bella Vista, and Centerton, this thing is probably going to arrive within the next 15 minutes. This thing is moving at 65 miles per hour. So that's even faster when folks are going on Tawnytown, along Highway 412 to get to Salem Springs. This thing is plowing eastbound. Cave Springs, probably about 15 minutes or so. Fayetteville, Springdale, just slightly slower. Here in about 20 minutes or so coming in for you guys in Springdale and Fayetteville. It's just about to cross into Washington County. You can kind of see the orientation. The line is north to south, but Arkansas state line isn't. You see that tilt there? So coming in Benton County now, Washington County coming in with the next minute or two, so just a little bit of a lag because of the orientation of the line. But this thing coming in within about 5 minutes to Lincoln, 6 or 7 minutes to Prairie Grove, closer to 10, 15 minutes for Farmington, and close to 20 minutes as you get into Fayetteville and Springdale. West Fort Greenland, we're included in that as well. Devil's Den State Park, we're about to get blasted with that wind too. But the core of the wind, right in here where we have that wind that's just about 80 plus miles per hour, is crossing, headed right into Gravette and Sulphur Springs, and then right over just north of the dairy barn coming out of Decatur. This is where that gust of wind is. This thing is putting down tree limbs. This thing has been causing power outages. Remember, anywhere from about 20% of a county to 50% of a county losing power because of this storm. This isn't just your average windstorm. This thing is plowing east and it's knocking people's powers out. And so if I were you, if you're tuning in, make sure if you're tuning on a mobile device, make sure it's plugged in. Because you only have a few more minutes to charge if your power does go out tonight. And more storms could fire up, not nearly as strong as these, but additional storms could fire up throughout the overnight hours and into early tomorrow morning. Of course, now I guess we're in tomorrow morning. So we're into, it gets confusing at this time. But you're watching that wind just come on through. It looks like we have a pocket of hail that's also with this storm on the north side, kind of just north of that bubble. We've got a little bit of hail coming into Jay. But you see those severe thunderstorm warnings coming in, and you see the difference in color. We've got the stronger one that's actually farther north in this yellow color with that severe thunderstorm warning for Salem Springs, Decatur, Gravette, Gentry, just going up and down Highway 59 to Sulphur Springs. But a little bit of hail being reported on this storm. Here's a look at the radar, now crossing over. Notice how the southern end of this line does not have as much lightning with it. Still has a lot of wind with it. Let me get the latest wind for Washington County. Estimating 60 to 70 miles per hour, maybe a few gusts at 72, but it's the Benton County storm that has wind near 80 at times, and sometimes just pushing a little bit over 80. In fact, it's not exact, but and because we're at a higher elevation with this radar beam going over Gravette and Decatur, but guessing some winds near 85, pushing 90 miles per hour. Some of that wind can sometimes duck down with the maximum gust, but usually you can shave off a little bit from what that wind is estimating, 2,000 to 3,000 feet up. But we're still getting 70 to 80 plus mile per hour winds for Benton County, a little bit weaker for Washington County. So I would expect there to be more power outages pushing across Benton than maybe Washington County if this continues. After this storm hits you, so let's walk you through what it's gonna do for your house if it's not already started. The wind's gonna pick up first. Well, you may even hear the thunder off in the distance first. You probably see it when you're looking out any kind of west window. I would get away from the window on this one because sometimes wind speeds, at 90 miles per hour, you look at EF0 damage on a tornado, which is essentially what you could possibly get at certain gusts with this storm. You can start to knock out and break some certain windows if it's just hitting just right. That could be possible at times with this storm, but essentially you see the lightning, you hear the thunder off in the distance, wind will pick up first, and then eventually just this deluge of rain and maybe sometimes small hailstones. Hail threats are very low now on this storm, has some hail, but it's not the massive hail cores that we've tracked earlier today in Oklahoma. But then you get that mix of the heavy rain and some small hailstones and just a lot of lightning and thunder rolling for a while. Then for the next 2 hours or so, you're going to be getting some rain. Look how the rain just continues over Tulsa. That will continue to push east. So I'm going to go ahead. Let me step off for a second. You got an update? Oh, okay.
Yeah, just go over to the board.
Okay. You can take over that one. Stephen, do you have any updates on that storm? I guess set up over here.
Just that the two warnings that we got stacked on top of each other here, one for Washington County and then one heading into Benton County. Two different types of wind speeds we have right now. Again, it comes with a tag of what those wind speeds, those gusts are right now. It looks like this northern end of this line of thunderstorms moving into Benton County. Again, Matt was mentioning folks that live in Bentonville, Rogers, get prepared for that just wave of wind to come at you around 90 miles per hour. Across Washington County, this is estimated at around 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, both incredibly strong wind gusts right now, and is going to cause some damage once we cross over into this. But we've had this severe thunderstorm warning issued for a while now, but most of that polygon hasn't been filled yet. We got this polygon, it's kind of overlapping each other. It's hard to see, but it's across portions of Oklahoma still, and half of it hasn't even seen any rainfall yet. Bentonville, Rogers, you go down I-49, Bentonville, Rogers, Fayetteville, West Fork, Winslow, hasn't seen any rainfall all yet today, hasn't seen any of those strong wind gusts and hail potential at all either. So while that's we've been building those temperatures throughout the day today, this is an untapped atmosphere right now that when this line of thunderstorms does push in, most likely we're going to continue to see these severe thunderstorm warnings push through. We had that tornado earlier from that cell that originated in southeastern Oklahoma. Now that was one of the only tornado warnings that we had out of that system. The one that's been rotating more has been this line of thunderstorms that pushed all the way across the state of Oklahoma and just now reaching across the state line heading into Arkansas. So we do have to be on the lookout for potentially one of these notches trying to get a quick spin up real quick, cause a tornado warning potentially. But right now, just those two severe thunderstorm warnings going out at least for the next half hour or so. And again, this is just about to start going into Bentonville. Bentonville, I'm guessing you probably have around 10, 15 minutes before you get that wall of wind coming in. Again, this has been clocked at around, 80 plus mile per hour wind gusts. This is going to be potentially damaging heading into Benton County first. As we take a look at Washington County, still right on the state line right there. I bet you we're seeing some amazing images coming out with just tons of lightning through the south side of this line of thunderstorms as it pushes into Washington County. And this is going to continue to just thrust its way into northwest Arkansas. Good news is this kind of ends right at the Washington County state line. So we talked about how earlier the River Valley had severe thunderstorm warnings. We had one across the Floor County, one across Crawford County and Sebastian County. And then we had that tornado warning moving into portions of Johnson County. For the most part, we'll go back and forth between radar. For the most part, that's moving out of our viewing area now, that cell that moved across portions of the River Valley. Now, what we're going to be focusing on is this line of thunderstorms that has continued its intensity all the way across Oklahoma and now just crossing over the state line, heading into northwest Arkansas. Again, you haven't seen much today. Prepare for the potential for some strong damaging wind gusts moving through over the next couple of hours. It hasn't shown any signs of losing its intensity throughout the rest of this evening. Most likely, as it's going into an untapped atmosphere, going to continue to uphold its intensity. We haven't seen those hail pockets very great. We've just been seeing those gray spots pop up every once in a while. That's mostly anywhere between pea-size to nickel-size hail. Once we start to see that blue pop up, that's when we could start be talking about close to quarter-size hail, which is when we're getting into that damaging zone. The hail threat well, going into tonight was one of our main concerns. So far, hasn't been great. Sure, we've had a few pockets of hail that have caused to cross over the quarter-size hail at some points throughout the night. Really, what the main threat for the rest of the night tonight is going to be the potential for those damaging straight-line winds. Matt's been mentioning it. These winds are so strong that this is equivalent to potentially an EF0 tornado, even though it's no rotation. Just the amount of wind gusts that are coming in at one time is going to be so incredibly loud, so incredibly strong that we are going to potentially have some damaging reports come through. We looked earlier. I know Matt called for those power outages. I looked a little bit later, and now we're probably hovering around the 5,000 mark across portions of the River Valley, spread out across several different counties. I think the two top counties right now with those power outages is going to be Logan and then Johnson County. The least amount of power outages last time we looked was in Sebastian County, so those straight line winds that moved through Fort Smith earlier on this morning now didn't cause as many power outages. Mostly it's when it picked back up, it pulsed back up, caused that rotation on the south side of Johnson County. And then eventually we did have that confirmed tornado. Matt mentioned it earlier. We have that our morning show coming up in about 4 hours or so. We're going to try to get more reports out of Scranton all the way out to Knoxville, where we did have that National Weather Service confirmed by radar, that tornado on the ground. We already have had one tornado on the ground tonight. Again, it was a low possibility, but it was always still in the forecast for tonight just because of how strong these wind gusts are going. Once we get those strong straight line winds going, sometimes, like Matt said, it can manufacture itself into a brief spin up and then start to fall apart. So again, this line of thunderstorms that's moving through Benton and Washington County now has had a history of a few tornado warnings further out west across portions of Oklahoma, and now Bentonville, you're starting to see some of that lightning, probably very loud. Rogers crossing over 49 now. It is about to be a wall of wind that's coming through, kind of trying to linger out just a bit, not the direct line of wind coming through Bentonville right now, just getting a taste of some of that lightning, some of that heavy rainfall. The wall of winds about to push through right now. Again, this is the stronger end of things where we could see the potential for that 80+ mile-an-hour wind gusts somewhere involved in the north side of this line of thunderstorms, crossing over the state line, heading into Washington County as well. Anywhere between 70 to 80 mile-per-hour wind gusts involved in this as well. Again, anytime we cross over that 58 mile-an-hour range, severe thunderstorm warning definitely. But once we get this high, this is definitely going to be considered damaging as we head over the next hour or two is when we're going to see this line of thunderstorms continue to push through. Folks across portions of eastern Oklahoma, almost done with the night. Are going to be transitioning over to northwest Arkansas over the next couple of hours here. And our main concern, even though we were talking about hail and the wind gusts and the potential for some rotation, some low-level rotation, the main concern throughout all of this is that it's 10 minutes outside of 2 a.m. You want to make sure, even if you have already seen some storms move through the rest of your night, phone's charged, ready to go, have those notifications turned on so you can get those alerts when we have the potential for some severe weather in the middle of the night like we do right now. So, Matt, you got...
Trying to see if any reports from that tornado right now.
Okay.
But you were asking about power outages, and just really quick, the update coming in from Logan County has now jumped to almost 4,000.
Okay.
And so those reports will continue to come in. No reports for Washington and Benton just yet. But we're still watching that storm plow on through. It's still just now coming into Bentonville, Centerton, Rogers, and it's going to hit us a lot harder in Benton County than it hits us in Washington County. This is one nasty storm that's blowing on through. It is showing some signs of weakening as it pushes just a little bit farther towards the north now. This thing is kind of wrapping in. This rear inflow jet is now kind of tilted a little bit more, so it's helping to push this storm a little bit farther north. So that's really hitting us hard from Centerton north to Bella Vista, and a lot of the mountain biking trails there. And you're going over Lake Windsor, and you go to Lake Avalon. There's the Tanyard Creek area, the Cooper Memorial Chapel there in Bella Vista. You go to Lake Ann, the Pinion Creek Falls. That's where this thing is really blasting on through. So I-49 is starting to get some slowdowns. I was also just looking at some traffic reports. We're now at a stop in Lamar and Knoxville on I-40 and Highway 64. So we're trying to get reports from there to see. I wonder, Stephen, if you may have a chance, if you look at RDOT and see if there's anything on their reporting. In the meantime, let's take a closer look at this storm that we have pushing over northwest. Whoop, in a second. All right, back to it. Okay, closer look at this storm. Wall of wind. The storm's definitely stronger on this north side. In fact, it's dribbling up a little bit toward the south. So right along Highway 62, we still have a lot of wind, but the storm, the rain is starting to weaken a bit. That's a good sign as it pushes towards Fayetteville and Springdale, Johnson. But you go north of Elm Springs, north of the experimental Walmart, and boy, we're getting hit hard from the promenade there towards Pinnacle Hills, west, X&A, we just got blasted through. Bentonville High School, Bentonville West, Decatur, Gravette, Gentry, anyone up and down Highway 59. This is where that core of the wind is pushing across Benton County, right here into Bella Vista. So you see Sulphur Springs and Bella Vista. We're getting hit. You go to the Highlands Golf Club, the Branchwood Recreation Center. There's the Highlands Gun Range, which is on the other side of I-49. So the whole Highlands area, if you got a Highlands thing, this is where that gust of wind's pushing through right over us. Lots of wind back westbound, too. That's the thing, too. It's not as if the wind just hits you and it stops afterwards. The wind just keeps on coming. The storm may weaken, as in the heavy rain may start to go more towards a light to moderate rain, and the lightning may slow down, and the rumbles of thunder may slow down, but that wind just keeps on plowing through. Look, we still have wind into Oklahoma that still continued to push on through. So not only is that leading edge that gets us, but you may still, maybe you have the full gust of wind push on through, get some limbs down. You may get additional limbs down throughout the night as more wind just comes in across Green Country and into Five Country. Wind now coming into Prairie Grove, Lincoln, Farmington. A little bit weaker to the south, but nonetheless, still severely warned storm with 60-mile-per-hour winds. And we've got 70-plus mile-per-hour winds in Benton County. So just a little bit stronger, head into Bentonville and Rogers. Up and down, 62. So Garfield and Pea Ridge, you've got to watch out. The Prairie Creek area on the western end of Beaver Lake. We have wind starting to come in for us and a few rumbles of thunder, too. Here's a closer look just at normal radar again. So that rain now stretches into Prairie Creek and up and down Walton, so downtown Rogers. A little bit less as you go to the south side of Rogers, there towards the Pleasant Grove exit. Most of this is north of the Whitaker Parkway. So you go north in the Promenade, Pinnacle Hills, Walden, and Walnut. And then north to about 8th Street. This is right where the new Walmart headquarters is going in. Rain coming down now. All along I-49 with those exits as you go to Bella Vista, where it meets US 71 even, and then into downtown Bella Vista, and the Highlands Golf Course, a little bit farther north. That's where this thing is headed next. But we have seen a significant weakening on the south side. Also, new thunderstorms are trying to flare up ahead of this line, too. This atmosphere wants to go, and so we popped up this storm that's up and down Highway 412 near Huntsville, and especially north of the Walmart in Huntsville is where you're getting this rain. And this one is probably going to continue to lift north and east, eventually coming into Berryville, Eureka Springs, even clipping the eastern end of Beaver Lake towards Big Clifty and headed towards the Turpentine, the Tiger Refuge there on the east side of the lake, headed to Eureka Springs. This cell's coming in. This one will continue to strengthen over time too. I'm going to show you what it looks like from a hail perspective, which we got. We've got that hail in Benton County. It's nothing crazy compared to some of the hailstones we've seen across Texas and Oklahoma the past couple days. But just to kind of give you a rough estimate, that dark gray color is generally showing you some pea-sized hail. The lighter gray color showing you nickel-sized hail. But once you see these little blotches of some white and maybe even blue at times, that's when you get to the quarter-sized hail and sometimes a little bit bigger. But most of the time, this hail that's coming down mixed in with a lot of heavy rain from XNA to Bentonville, Bentonville West, Bentonville High School, Rogers High School, Rogers Heritage, and then south towards Springdale. We've got some of this hail. Looks like it's a little bit more concentrated back west over Gravette, Sulphur Springs, the old Spanish Treasure Cove. North of Gravette, you got some of the caves around Sulphur Springs. Beautiful driving country, hail coming in along with some of that wind. This hail core will be headed to Bella Vista next. Highlands Golf Course, north side of Bentonville, where you've got the 8th Street Market, Central Ave, downtown Bentonville getting some of that hail too. Good pocket of hail there just on the south side of downtown Rogers. So you're headed south towards Lowell, up and down. Just US 71 there. We've got some hail coming in, and it's coming next into Prairie Creek. So downtown Rogers getting some of that hail. The Rogers Airport, we're about to get some of that hail at the Walmart FBO, about to get some of that hail too. And some of this will track north and east, headed towards Pea Ridge and Garfield. But that's something else you got to watch out for. Temperatures have now cooled down quite a bit in the River Valley after that big old thunderstorm hit us. It looks like it's finally weakening for Johnson County and Logan County. The heaviest stuff is now pushing to Pope County. But man, this has been an intense storm. It is really wrapping up though as that rear inflow jet steers off towards the north. So wider view, it's been tracking east, but as that rear inflow jet is now wrapping north, it's helping to push this to really impact us in southwest Missouri. That's where they may get more of that impact, but we're still getting skimmed with some of that gusty wind threat right into Bentonville. So here's a closer look in Bentonville, Centerton, Hiwassee, Pea Ridge, Little Flock getting that. Cave Springs, we've been dancing around some of these cells. You go north to the airport, we have that rain. You can see the runways there. Heavy rain about to hit us at XNA. And Heifel, Springtown. But Cave Springs, we're about to get blasted with some more heavy rain here in a moment. This one will not miss us. Elm Springs, Springdale, Arvest Ballpark, Johnson, Tawnytown. It's coming towards you guys. Man, it's really weakening on the south side. Kind of Highway 62 is kind of scaring this storm. Look at this, how it comes in and starts to break up a little bit, up and down from Lincoln to Prairie Grove. Most of the rain's north of Lincoln Lake towards Rhea and Cincinnati and Weddington. Lake Weddington, Savoy, getting some of that too. Most of them staying north of the mountains. Mountains have kind of been the good place to be here, to be honest. We've kind of been in between the two storms. But I want to take you to more of a wide view of radar. We have more cells that are back off towards the west. Look at this thing. This thing's trying to track eastbound too. Not severely warned, but it's headed towards McAllister and Lake Eufaula next. We'll have to watch that. Lightning's upticking quite a bit, so it's a strengthening storm. Don't be surprised we get some warnings out of that here soon. That would come into the River Valley. But northwest Arkansas, we're watching this. Hey, Trevor, you got me there in the control room? Okay, let's go ahead, because this storm has weakened quite a bit. We're still going to cover on all our digital platforms, but we're going to return to normal programming on Channel 5. Once again, we have you covered on all our digital platforms. All you have to do is have the 5 News app. It'll have a watch live button. Just click that. We're live on that. If you have a Roku or Fire Stick, all you have to do is hit the 5 Plus app, download that, 5 Plus. I think you have to type in KFSM if you're looking for the app library if you need it. Download that, put that on your Roku Fire Stick. We'll continue live on there. We're also live on our YouTube page and on Facebook as well. So we've got you covered. But we're going to go ahead and hop off here on the TV. And you're going to get a countdown from Master Control? Okay. We'll see you guys on our digital platforms. Keep it here, keep it local. Stay with us. All right, Trevor. Everything execute okay? Okay. Are we still in PCR and on digital? Awesome. Thank you, Trevor. We have the best directors, I tell you. Okay. We're going to continue our live streaming right now. Thank you for joining us on digital. Still trying to go through reports, kind of looking at several different screens. If you have any reports from Logan County or Johnson County, let me know. We're going to make a post real quick, send that out. Can make it easy to comment back if you guys have. We're going to try to send a crew as soon as we can. But we did have a tornado touchdown right around Scranton, headed towards Lake Dardanelle, Arkansas River, crossed over the river, and headed right into Lamar and Knoxville. Did you find anything maybe with RDOT? Nothing? No. Are there any cameras right there? Does it even show any cars that are stopped by chance? It's going to be hard to see just with the rain, though. I tell you what, that storm was nuts. To be honest, that storm became more powerful than, okay, Washington County storm has been trimmed. Severe thunderstorm warning now just includes Greenland and Prairie Grove. Does not include West Fork anymore. So there at the Harps and West Fork, you hop off the interstate. No longer do we have that warning. But as soon as you get to Greenland, we have the warning. Includes U of A, right, from Fayetteville, uptown Fayetteville, Lake Fayetteville, Lake Sequoia. You go to Hickory Creek and Horseshoe Bend. We have the warning that continues, hitting us right over Prairie Creek and Bentonville. But this is now just a lot of heavy rain. We still have some wind. Let me get you an update on some of those wind speeds. I'm going to switch. Okay. Core of wind. Let's see. Core of wind still about 60 to 70 miles per hour. I'm going to hop off just for a second. I'm going to leave over Benton County just because that's where we're getting the fiercest storm.
There's cameras in Knoxville.
What do you see?
It's just covered in
rain.
Covered in rain.
Okay. Well, that's good news.
But it did go from the red that RDOT shows to orange. So
orange.
Traffic is
resuming,
slowly starting to pick back up again.
Okay, that is good. But we will, once again, we're trying to get information that has happened and then trying to get you information before it happens at the same time as the storm's pushing on through. Just getting updates from SPC. We're getting a couple reports of trees down in the Dardanelle area. A lot of that's wind as well. Let's see. Just trying to look. 130. I'm just reading a couple reports. Prairie View, northern Logan County, and then headed right towards Knoxville and Lamar. But we did have a debris ball that came on through. I'm not getting any reports from no one's reporting anything National Weather Service necessarily at this time. Sorry, I know I'm talking a little bit slow, just trying to read at the same time. Oklahoma's sending some people out to measure some trees down and also to take a look at damage. Tahlequah, so just northeast of Lake Tenkiller. That's the storm that's going through Bentonville right now. Interesting. Okay. I wanted to show you a wide view of Max Doppler 5. And, there you are. Wide view. Man, that was a powerful storm with that tornado that touched down, now leaving 5 country. Still have some rain on the backside. Got this big swath of rain in Oklahoma trying to cross in. Nasty storm hitting us in Springdale and Rogers, Bentonville as well. Okay, I'm reading a couple reports. Highway 288, Prairie View. All right, I got a report from Subiaco. 10 is in their yard. The tree is on their house. That's the Curtis family. Hope you guys are okay. Prayers for you guys. Okay, Subiaco, wind blew really hard. We have highway damage on Prairie View, 288. Looks like some chicken houses and some of the homes there too. Piney Bay Campground, there's a tree down. Thank you guys for these reports. These really do help out as we're trying to help folks know what's going on. Donna says no electricity. I'm sure we have a lot of power out in Knoxville, but but okay. Let's see. No power in Scranton. Half of Clarksville could be without power. All right, appreciate you guys' reports. I'm sure more will come in over time. But that was a nasty debris ball that was headed right through. It looked like it was about a mile wide debris ball. So we'll try to get more information. All right, heavy rain pushing all along I-49 from Fayetteville to Johnson, Springdale, Tawnytown. You go north to Lowell and Bethel Heights, the Monroe Avenue exit at J.B. Hunt headquarters, north into the Mercy Hospital that's just off the Promenade and Pinnacle Hills, the Walmart AMP, north to Walnut and Walton getting that heavy rain extending right over Beaver Lake now, including the Lost Bridge area to Rocky Branch, Montanay. We've got some rain, Hickory Creek. We got another wave about to hit us. And you head north towards Blue Springs Road. We had a little bit of rain, but now more rain's coming in from the west. Tyson headquarters getting some of that rain now coming down to Tyson Parkway and Arbest Ballpark. You're looking in Johnson, rain coming in over the Blessings Golf Course. And then up and down Main Ave as it goes, or Main Drive headed to US 71 or College. And Lake Fayetteville about to get some of that rain. But this storm is definitely weakened quite a bit. Right over Bella Vista, Bentonville, lots of heavy rain for us. Wind speeds still clocking possibly up to 70 miles per hour. So slow weakening. So how this thing has evolved, hit Tulsa with 90 to 100 mile per hour winds, hit the state line with 80 mile per hour winds. Now we're closer to 70 mile per hour winds. For those gusts. Those aren't sustained, those are gusts. Sustained winds generally, looking earlier, were 40 to 45 miles per hour, so that means it's constantly at least 40. But then you get these winds that could be double that at times. Doesn't last forever, but that gust can do some damage. Let's see. Severe thunderstorm warning out towards the east with that cell that's hit us in Johnson and Logan counties is now hitting Pope and now even skimming parts of Newton County. Back to normal radar. Pretty nasty cell out towards the west, but doesn't have as much wind with it this time. Maybe 45 to 50 mile per hour winds. We'll see if that changes over time, especially once it starts to run into this environment that's already been worked. So we'll see there. Severe thunderstorm warning has been trimmed to no longer include Salem Springs. See here, right here on the edge. No warning. Warning. Probably going to continue to be trimmed. XNA still very heavy rain, but it's going to stop pouring at the airport here soon. And same thing in Gravette, Decatur. Rain now slowly ending. Let's see what else we got. All right, warning's about to be really trimmed. Okay, new warning coming out for Rogers, Prairie Creek, Garfield, and Pea Ridge. We were already on warning. It's basically being trimmed and extended east into Carroll County and Madison County. But they're going to be canceling the warning to the west. So Bentonville West High School to Bentonville High School. Eventually the warning will be canceled. Probably give another 10-15 minutes before that takes place. There's measuring some of the winds. Pushing on through. Right over Prairie Creek. And Centerton, a little flock. This is a nasty storm. I wonder if live look at Ozark still with our camera there. Let me put Fayetteville. You're going to see the banner change in a second. Not that one. All right, there we go. Live look in Fayetteville, some gusty winds, but do not believe the warning will be continued for Fayetteville for much longer. But still gusty winds, and it's loud out there. You see all the trees blowing around. Live looking Ozark, still breezy too. See how the camera's still shaking in Ozark, and that storm's long gone. The winds will continue to blow out of the west for quite some time tonight. And it may not be the 80 mile per hour winds, thank goodness, but and still see that flashes of lightning that's just been non-stop across the river valley. Steven's been tracking them ever since they came out of Oklahoma City, and they've just been plowing on through. We had the two complexes. You can still see the remnants of the two complexes, but notice how they're starting to form one arc. There's almost kind of a bridge between the two complexes. We've had this storm in the south that really geared up, and to be honest, has been the stronger storm. And then this storm that's slowly weakening as it clips northwest Arkansas and is really wrapping to the north, still hitting us really good in Bentonville and in Rogers and Bella Vista, Highlands Golf Course north to the state line with Missouri and into McDonald County. Moving northeast, Beaver Lake getting that. But this has been the bigger cell over time. This thing really grew. We've been tracking them for a while. We'll see how this little appendage comes in over McAllister. That'll come right towards us again in Poteau and Fort Smith. So storm hits you tonight, doesn't mean you're done. There could be more scattered storms that try to pop up through the overnight hours. Closer look at that storm in northwest Arkansas. Eventually it's going to be trimmed more on its western side, but heavy rain just pouring from Rogers to Bentonville, Pinnacle Hills area, Walmart, Amp, Thaden Field, and Pea Ridge and Avoca, Garfield. We're getting that heavy rain up and down Highway 62. It's pouring for us, and then you can see Beaver Lake on the map a little bit before it gets pounded with rain. But Lost Bridge getting that rain. Rocky Branch is about to pick up. It's really picking up at the Prairie Creek Marina. Montanay, we're getting blasted now, Frisco and Hickory Creek. You go south to Blue Springs Road as you're getting close to Highway 412. The rain about to come in, a little bit weaker, but still nonetheless gusty, pushing across northwest. I'm going to show you some of the hail parameters that we may have. See, not a lot, but there could be some hailstones that mix in across Prairie Creek and Beaver Lake and Avoca, Garfield, Pea Ridge. We have some hail trying to dance around us right now. All right, looks like trees are in the middle of the road. In the Lamar, Knoxville area. And Piney Bay Campground. I'm just still looking at reports coming in from that tornado that touched down from Logan to Johnson County. But what you're looking at right now is the storm in northwest, storm exiting the river valley, but pushing right over Beaver Lake and Rogers, Prairie Creek, Avoca, Garfield, Pea Ridge, that heavy rain coming on through. But the wind's active, but it has weakened now down to 60 to 70 miles per hour winds. So slowly we continue to watch that weakening process, which is good. I'm going to show you wind gusts. Looks like we still have some really gusty winds coming out of Fort Smith. Very windy for us. Even after the storm leaves, it's just so breezy across 5 Country. But you're looking at some of those reports. I don't have one for Bentonville. See if I can pull that up in a different way. Still getting wind gusts around 40 in XNA. Getting wind gusts around 38 in Salem Springs still. Winds in Fayetteville, gusting up to about 30 miles per hour. So this thing is showing definite signs of weakening. But in the river valley, we still have that wind coming out of the northwest after the storms blew on through. We got about 50 plus mile per hour wind gusts coming through Fort Smith. I've got Poteau around 30 mile per hour wind gusts. Salisaw wind gusts 35, 36. Oh, you do see Salisaw. Okay, there we go. All right. Let's see. Yeah, so the core of the wind is right in here. But then afterwards, you still get some winds for a while. But this storm has definitely weakened over northwest Arkansas. But in that red circle, we still have some wind gusts that could be near 60 miles per hour. But on the backside, a little bit less breezy with maybe 40 mile per hour wind gusts. Still very breezy, but the severe threat will be lowered here very shortly. And we'll probably get some trimming on from the National Weather Service. Let's see, okay. Just reading about some trees down in different spots across, especially the river valley. Power lines down on Carbon Plant Road there in Franklin County. And around Ozark, we have trees down on North 2nd Street. But Altus, that's where the Altus is, the Carbon Plant Road. And 2 to 3 inch limbs down. Kind of shows you the wind speeds. You know, you can easily get twigs to blow off, but a 3-inch branch, that takes some wind to do. Reading a couple more reports of, and just outside of us in Yell County and Pike County. But still watching this wind push on through, and we'll continue to march eastbound across Beaver Lake. So this includes Lost Bridge and Pine Lock, and you're getting north to the dam around Garfield and Gateway. But Prairie Creek getting that rain, man, it's coming down in buckets for us in Montanay and Hickory Creek, Horseshoe Bend. Beaver Lake just getting pounded. But it's already starting to lighten up on the backside. Now we have moderate rain. I mean, there's still some good rain coming into Siloam Springs, Decatur, Gentry, Gravette. But that core of the heavier rain marching east right across Benton County. Nice gusty winds on the backside, 30, 40 mile per hour winds. But then gustier winds here on the leading edge up to 60 miles per hour going across Beaver Lake right now. And that's going to just head towards Eureka Springs next. We're starting to get to the eastern end of Benton County. But Fayetteville, man, look at this. Look at Fayetteville. Just barely getting skimmed here. Greenland, I'm not sure if we even had rain yet. Maybe a couple drops skimming us. But this storm has really eroded there on its south side across central Washington County. Then across the river valley, light rain still reporting, but still some gusty winds here for a while. And we'll track this storm coming in from the west. Not severe at this time, but could be nasty later on. It's right here in this threat. Okay, severe thunderstorm warning has now been expired for western Benton County, so Bentonville, Cave Springs, Tawnytown, towards Harbor High School, Siloam Springs, Decatur, Gravette, Gentry, Heifel, Cave Springs, around XNA. No longer do you have that severe thunderstorm warning. The core of the wind is going over the western edge of Beaver Lake, right over Prairie Creek, and pushing to Lost Bridge in Eureka Springs. There towards Beaver and up and down Highway 62 to Gateway. You go past the kind of that baseball themed gas station with the good ice cream right before you get to Gateway. Right there along 62 as you're trying to head north to Missouri. Maybe you're trying to cut I-49 and head north to Springfield or Branson. But these storms are really hitting us even harder in southwest Missouri. We kind of dodged one here in northwest Arkansas as this storm is wrapping. It's been plowing east, and then that rear inflow jet is now kind of swinging to the north, allowing us to avoid a direct hit with the worst wind. But man, it's still gusty in Bentonville and Prairie Creek and Rogers, anywhere north of the airport, Dayton Field and the Walmart FBO. You got Pea Ridge, of course, and Bella Vista and Highlands Golf Course, Lake Ann, Lake Windsor, Lake Annalena. Gusty winds for us. Let's see. Just taking a look at some of that wind too. So not all of these winds are reaching the ground anymore. You go 3,000 feet up, and we're still estimating winds 70 to 80 miles per hour, but that doesn't mean that's necessarily where you're getting. But if you were on a plane coming out of XNA, it'd be windy taking off, and then it'd be really windy 20 seconds into your flight. That's roughly, if you kind of imagine how high you would be off the ground, roughly 15 to 20 seconds after taking off on the runway. That's where the core of the wind is right now. And so far it's been stabilized up there with not so gusty winds across Benton County and Washington County. Let's see. Give you a wide view. What it looks like with these storms. Look at this complex. Look at that low pressure too. Almost looks like some sort of inland hurricane. See that coming west of Wichita? This is what's helping drive these storms eastbound. So you put the low pressure about here. You put the front right in here, and it just continues to push storms eastbound for us. But they have been weakening over time as they start, we go deeper into the overnight hours. Lose some energy. There's still some energy, but you're starting to lose some of that over time. Oh, you're good, you're good. You can change something if you need it. I can stay here on a second. There's that heavy rain pushing into McDonald County. Still very heavy over Rogers and northeast Springdale, Emma Avenue, past the airport, Lowell, Bethel Heights, still heavy rain, but a lot of the wind threat is now over Beaver Lake and continues to move north and east towards Garfield and Pea Ridge, and there towards Gateway. But Lost Bridge, where Sailboat Cove is, there on the north side, some good wind for us. Hopefully the sails are down, but kind of interesting how these two storms have made a bridge, kind of connecting together. It's kind of like this, like two friends. But this has been a nasty storm, and we're still trying to get some updates on what has happened. So that's good news. Okay. I'm going to loop this just over the past 15 minutes. You see where it's going. Lightning has downtrended a little bit too, so that's good. But we have the southern appendage that's coming in towards Huntsville and Alabama, and War Eagle got some of that. Eureka Springs pouring for us, and the Turpentine Creek Refuge there, just south of Big Clifty. On the east end of Beaver Lake, we've got lots of heavy rain pushing on through. See if there's any update from the National Weather Service. No, just seeing, just a lot of signs down, trees down in spots, limbs down in spots, power poles down in spots. Let's get you the updated power outages. So Logan County, we have about 35% of the counties without power, and a lot of that's centralized in eastern Logan County from Paris east. But almost 4,000 power outages in Logan County, 2,500 or so in Johnson County, 300 in Franklin, and over 2,000 in Crawford. Sebastian County, 600. That storm really picked up once it kind of left Fort Smith. It was still crazy in Fort Smith, and it's still windy in Fort Smith. But the 80-mile-per-hour winds gusts that we could potentially were getting really started after Fort Smith. Benton and Washington counties, we have 50 power outages in Benton County and 13 in Washington County. So a lot weaker, which is good news. I'm just going to look in Oklahoma, LaFleur County, 800, a little over 1,000 in Sequoia, 400 in Adair, and over 2,000 in Delaware. And then once you get, these numbers are crazy, over 100,000 power outages in Tulsa, and you go to Rogers County, which is just south or just north and east. I don't know, I think the airport's still in Tulsa County, but Rogers is there towards Owasso, headed past Owasso, but 15,000 power outages are being reported. So overall, Arkansas has 16,000 power outages, Oklahoma has 191,000 power outages, Texas has 125,000 power outages, and Louisiana has 113,000 power outages. So we're not in that range, which is good, but we may have had the biggest tornado of the night, and that was eastern Logan County. But I'm getting the Darnell area. With trees down. All right, the core of the wind is now pushing into Carroll County and is leaving Beaver Lake. You still have heavy rain, but the wind threat's now pushing into Carroll County. For a while, you're still going to get some wind. And that'll continue overnight. It's just going to be a breezy night for us. 40+ mile per hour gusts at times. I want to show you the wind gust map really quick if I can find where I put that. Let's see. Yeah, here are wind gusts. So we still have gusts. They're not severe, but we still have very windy conditions across Fayetteville and in Bentonville. Numbers finally coming back in as the storm lightens up for Bentonville and Fayetteville. But looking for Smith, we still have 50+ mile per hour winds. Those are gusts, not sustained, but gusts just because it's going to be very breezy as this whole system blows on through. So not only do you get the gust of wind at the leading edge of a storm, but it's just going to be very breezy overnight. More storms back off towards the west that are not severe right now, but just very breezy here for a while. Let's go ahead and give you a wide view, and then we are going to regroup and come up with a plan for the rest of the night with our teams. Do you have any updates? Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, it is morning. It's 2 a.m., almost 2:30. Wide view with the storms. Nasty ones with the most lightning north of Conway, headed north and east towards Searcy. You go north and west, or Searcy, Arkansas. I had a professor named Searcy, so I sometimes say Searcy instead of Searcy. Lots of lightning going into southwest Missouri. Heavy rain over Beaver Lake, but pushing right into Carroll County for Eureka Springs and for Berryville. More rain off towards the west. This one's starting to weaken a little bit on its lightning. Still pretty good storm. Headed towards Latimer and Haskell counties, and then probably headed towards Poto eventually. But things a lot weaker back west. Just some scattered thunderstorms possible. There could be some redevelopment of showers and rumbles of thunder into tomorrow morning. So we're not out of the woods after this thing passes through. I think we're going to have some on and off rain for a while. But it looks like the severe threat's now pushing slowly out of 5 country. The winds have weakened quite a bit on these storms as they push north and east. But it's going to be a very breezy night for a while. We're still getting wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour across green country, 52 miles per hour in Fort Smith. So very breezy for a while, but we appreciate you sticking with us for this evening as we've been tracking the thunderstorms. We'll come back on as more storms push on through and as needed throughout the overnight. It's been loud. We've woken up a lot of folks with this lightning and thunder, but hopefully we can kick out the rain sooner rather than later throughout the morning coming up in the next few hours so that we can get to Father's Day and finally maybe get some sun. As these storms pass on through, we can have a better idea on reanalyzing the atmosphere, and we're going to have the updated forecast coming up here at 6 a.m. I'll be on with Jose, and we'll be talking about the threat for rain throughout your Father's Day, and we'll have a look ahead as summer officially begins on Wednesday. So a couple things to look forward to and plan out, but we'll have that forecast coming up bright and early, 6 o'clock. Hopefully you get some sleep tonight. Hopefully Dad gets some sleep tonight, and we'll have more forecasts on our digital platforms through the rest of this morning's hours. I guess not even anymore, early morning hours. We appreciate your time. Meteorologist Stephen Elmore and I will continue to look at the atmosphere and analyze a few things. We'll give you updates throughout our digital platforms and social media platforms as needed throughout tonight. You guys get some sleep. Appreciate your time. Make sure you keep it here. Keep it local. As always,